A salted wind drifted in from Blackwater Bay, its chill threading narrow streets still trembling from the cheers of yesterday's coronation. Dawn glazed the broken domes and scorched towers with a thin amber that exaggerated every crack, every fire-blackened stone, as though the city itself refused to forget the price paid for the new king's reign. Jon Snow, cloak unfastened despite the bite of the breeze, stood alone upon the ramparts of Maegor's Holdfast and studied the awakening capital. He caught the creak of a merchant's cart, the clatter of hooves somewhere far below, the muffled prayer of a septon already calling down blessings on King Bran the Broken. Yet beyond the familiar chorus of a city at first light, Jon listened for another sound, something softer, more intimate, the echo of his own conscience whispering that the hour of unavoidable choice had arrived. Word of the night's dream still clung to his thoughts like damp wool. A courtyard blanketed in first fallen snow. A red gift weirwood burning with summer color, and Sansa dancing there beneath its branches. She wore the same smile she had shown him as children, all mischief and delight, before the roads south had torn their innocence apart. In the dream he called her name, but she answered only by scattering petals into the wind. Petals that changed mid-flight to crimson feathers, then to droplets of blood, vanishing the instant they touched the ground. Jon had woken in the pre-dawn dark, heart pounding, a raven's caw rasping through the shutters as though to underscore the omen. The letter waiting on the table beside his cot bore no witness to dreams, yet its wax bore the snarling direwolf sigil of House Stark. Its contents, Lord Davos had warned, would alter everything. Jon's gloves were stiff with salt from the march north of the Wall, where he had lived among free folk, where oaths were spoken around fires and measured by survival rather than law. Now, set against the marble corridors of the Red Keep, those same gloves felt brutally out of place. They carried memories of a colder world, one that did not temper mercy with parchment seals or small council votes. Jon flexed his fingers, remembering how lightly Longclaw fit his grip, how simply the sword defined duty, edge, balance, certainty. Here, certainty was forged in words, and words might cut deeper than Valyrian steel. Footsteps sounded behind him, measured, respectful. Lord Davos Seaworth halted a pace short of the rampart's parapet. The Onion Knight had trimmed his salt-hound pepper beard for the coronation, but lines of sleepless worry remained etched around his eyes. He extended the parchment Jon already knew by heart. The other copies are bound for the Vale, the Riverlands, House Manderley, and Lady Barbary Dustin, Davos said, voice lowered against the wind. I read it thrice. It speaks plain enough. Jon did not reach for the letter again. Plain and treason can share a tongue, he replied, the words tasting of iron. Does Sansa say aught of Bran? Only what she dare not veil, Davos answered. She names him Stark, but no king of hers. The North, she writes, was promised freedom the moment Aegon Targaryen breathed his last. She claims your slaying of Daenerys, and your subsequent pardon, prove that dragons and conquerors both can perish when their cause drifts from justice. She counts Bran among them now. Davos Yaw flexed. She asks the great houses to honor her claim of northern secession, and, should the crown resist, to rise in solemn defense. The rampart stones chilled through Jon's boots. He imagined Sansa at Winterfell's high table, quills scratching by candlelight, her keen mind slicing through Gordian knots of politics as deftly as Arya's blade. Sansa had learned the courtesies of Cersei's court, the cunning of Littlefinger, the steel of their late father's honor. She wielded each like threads in a tapestry, weaving patterns others seldom saw until ensnared. That she would petition the realm so boldly should not surprise him. Yet the reality landed like a mailed fist to the chest. A gull shrieked overhead. Jon turned from the sea to the city within the walls. The dragon pits collapsed into ivy-coated ribs. The sept of Baelor's empty foundation, still ringed with scaffolds and prayer flags. The charred boulevard where Drogon's shadow had first fallen. Bran's reign was meant to grow from these ruins. The North's withdrawal would hollow the seed before it sprouted. Davos followed Jon's gaze. She moves swift, your sister. Half the lords given voice at council still weigh their purses, not their consciences. If they sense the North's cause is certain, They may barter loyalty for wool and timber and the safety of distant wars. Mand Heshamaru. Etir be. And if they weigh kinship? Jon asked. Some served under Robb. Others bled beneath our banners at the Trident at Winterfell. He exhaled, plume of white mingling with morning mist. Family can split even a crown. Or cleave it clean, Davos murmured. A bell began its low toll from the great sept temporary shrine. One chime for the mother, one for the father, repeating through the seven. Coronation gifts would be offered at first prayers. Bran himself would appear, though shrines and bells meant little to the three-gayed raven. Jon let the bell's cadence settle into his breath. A rhythm older than thrones or war. Inhaled duty, exhaled doubt. He faced Davos. Summon the hand. Tyrion is already in the council chamber, Davos said. Word spreads faster than ravens after a crow's feast. He'll want to speak before you, before we present this to the king. Jon nodded. Send riders to bring Lady Sansa south under escort. 100 blades sworn to House Stark, 200 sworn to the crown. I want no talk of kidnapping or intimidation. Darrow. Davos eyed him. Will she come willingly? She will, Jon replied, praying the certainty in his tone might become truth. She loves Bran. She loves the North more. She will come for both. He glanced once more at the horizon, where sunlit waves shimmered like fresh-forged steel, and have her letters sealed and copied. No lord will claim ignorance after today. Left alone, Jon descended the spiral stairs, candlelight flickering over wet stone. The air thickened with the Red Keep's peculiar smell. Old parchment, lemon oil on oaken doors, the lingering ghost of wildfire deep beneath. Each breath recalled corridors he had once walked as prisoner, then assassin, then penitent. Now he trod them as protector of a king who was also his brother, and judge of a sister who might fracture the realm. The small council chamber waited behind a pair of gilded doors carved by hammer and chisel since Robert's reign. Inside, light slanted through mullioned windows, pooling upon a polished table encircled by hig-backed chairs. Tyrion Lannister sat at the king's left, quill poised over scroll, a furrow across his brow that hinted the night had been long and wine-thin. Brienne stood near the hearth in full armor, her blue cloak trimmed with gold, sword sheathed but eyes sharply attentive. Across from her, Lord Gendry Baratheon shifted his muscular arms as though still unaccustomed to doublet and chain. Lord Samwell Tarly thumbed a thick tome, spectacles sliding down his nose. All turned as Jon entered. Tyrion set the quill aside. Ah, Lord Snow. My apologies, King's Protector. Though titles tangle worse than Dornish knotgrass these days. You've seen the Raven of Northern Intent, I presume. Jon suppressed a flicker of irritation. I have. We'll speak plainly. He laid Davos' duplicate letter on the table. Sansa presses for northern independence and invites houses to support her claim. That is treason under Bran's crown. Tyrion's eyes, mismatched in worry and curiosity, tracked the parchment. Yet, when Daenerys fell, it was you who argued no realm can be chained by fear. Were the North to depart peacefully, it would not be peaceful, Jon cut in. He felt the edge of Longclaw's hilt glide beneath his palm. A grounding weight, though he did not draw it. Every reach of Westeros is hungry for repair. Funds, soldiers, timber, grain. Lose the North supplies and you weaken the crown before it roots. Rivermen will starve twice come next flood. Ironborn will raid the neck faster than ravens fly. Tyrion folded delicate hands. Then we must dissuade Lady Stark with merciful diplomacy. Ser Brienne shifted, steel plates clicking. We owe her that at least. Sam's voice emerged, gentle but firm. Jon, perhaps if I wrote Sansa. Jon's knuckles whitened. She has written enough. I will not have the realm split for sake of words while dragons yet smolder beneath this hill. He paused, throat tightening around a memory of black wings and ash. Bran must judge her, and I must enforce that judgment. Silence settled with the weight of prophecy. Brienne's gaze glimmered with conflict. Gendry studied the table grain as though it might hammer itself into a spear. Tyrion exhaled. The realm believes Sansa, Stark, a hero. Survivor of Joffrey's cruelty, architect of Winterfell's salvation, most beloved sister to the king who saved the world from darkness. Executing her, he met Jon's eyes. Would brand this reign in fratricide, echoing Aerys's paranoia and Cersei's vengeance. Jon's response emerged soft, almost a whisper, yet it carried the finality of a glacier's crack. The realm burned when justice bowed to love. His gaze swept them each. I will not let it burn again. He turned and left the room before arguments could sprout anew, strides echoing down corridors that narrowed toward a courtyard where a small godswood had been planted after the city's sack. The sapling weirwood, its trunk thin as a maiden's wrist, bore sparse red leaves trembling in the sea breeze. Jon knelt before it, the southern soil smelling of citrus and ash rather than pine and snow. He remembered his father's words each winter's night. The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. Yet never had Ned Stark imagined placing Winter's edge upon his own child. Jon closed his eyes. Ravens rustled above. In their chorus he almost heard Ghost's distant howl, though the dire wolf roamed free in forests far north of the wall. Memories assailed him. Sansa threading silk through mother's embroidery hoop. Sansa spilling tears when Lady was slain. Sansa clasping his hand the night before the army of the dead fell upon them. He had brought her back, only to face the prospect of sending her beyond return. Footsteps crunched gravel behind him. "I thought you might be here," came Bran's calm voice. Not kingly, not brotherly, simply observant. Jon rose. Bran's wheelchair wheels whispered over stones, pushed by an attendant who withdrew discreetly. Sunlight glinted off the bronze scrollwork along the chair's arms, depicting the entwined roots and branches of a weirwood, roots extending beneath the wheels, branches rising toward invisible skies. "You've read the letter," Jon said. "I read it before the ink dried," Bran answered, eyes a blue-gray so pale they seemed windows to unending snowfields. "The ravens fly where I send them, yet they also fly where they will." Jon swallowed. "You know why I came south." "To serve the realm until it heals," Bran replied. "And perhaps to discover whether the realm will ever allow you to rest." Jon's laugh was bitter. "Rest? I am to take my sister's head." Bran's thin brows lifted, softening his gaze. "You will do as you believe necessary." "I need your command," Jon insisted. "If she stands before the Iron Throne, she stands before you?" Bran's gaze drifted to the sapling's leaves, rattling like tiny hearts. "The Iron Throne is gone, melted by dragon flame. What remains are chairs and men who choose their burdens." He paused. "You asked me to name judgment so you may bear the burden of execution. Ned Stark's last lesson." Jon half turned away, emotions roiling. He never foresaw this. "No," Bran conceded. His stories seldom pictured daughters wielding crowns or brothers shedding king's blood. He rested pale fingers on the wheel's rim. "Yet each choice we make weaves the next branch of the tree. Sansa's letter is treason. But treason and truth sometimes share a root. The North's people remember fire and famine and foreign kings who marched them south to die. They crave safety their own hands can hold." "Nen," Jon's voice frayed. "And what do you crave, your grace?" Bran's smile was measured and sad. "A song of quiet nights where no raven rouses me with screams from another age." He rolled closer until the chair's wheels pressed soft earth. "If you kill Sansa, the realm may hold. For a time. Yet fear might sprout where love once grew. If you spare her, the realm may fracture, yet a gentler forest might bloom. No gaze reaches every path. Now know I." Jon felt himself a boy again, struggling in Winterfell's courtyard to choose between wooden swords, blunted oak or heavier ironwood. He remembered Bran climbing towers, fearless until the fall. The child that fell had risen unbound by grief or desire. Yet somewhere behind Bran's calm, Jon sensed a tremor of sorrow. "Help me," Jon whispered. Bran closed his eyes. "I cannot. I can only witness." A light breeze stirred, shifting leaves to reveal slivers of sky. Jon bowed his head beneath their faint rustle, accepting the weight of solitude. When he opened his eyes again, Bran had turned away, wheels carrying him back toward polished corridors and council arguments, and a realm begging to be mended. That afternoon, ravens departed the rookery one after another. Charcoal wings flecked with parchment ribbons, while clanging hammers rang along the city's rebuilding walls. The street of steel hissed with forges spitting sparks. In the training yard beneath the ramparts, gold cloaks drilled with fresh forged spears, sweat streaking faces still bruised from last winter's riots. Jon watched from a stone arch, mind numb to the shouts of drill sergeants and clash of shields. Dusk paled into star-flecked violet before the first hooded ship unfurled sails atop the Blackwater. It bore the merman of House Manderley alive in seafoam green. Behind it, smaller cogs crept, lanterns swaying like fireflies. Jon's scouts reported the Vale had readied 5,000 men should House Aaron answer Sansa's petition. On the Reach's border, Tarly musters remained undecided, though whispers claimed generous trade promises from White Harbor. In the Great Hall, no longer crowned by jagged melted swords, but by modest beams, Jon convened a silent council of Blade Ogg's worn captain. He chose Sir Brienne to command the escort north. She accepted without flinch, though grief dimmed her blue eyes. "She is my lady, but I am sworn to protect the crown," Brienne said. "I will see her here without dishonor." Jon inclined his head. "Treat her as guest until the gates close behind us." A breath. "Then treat her as prisoner." Brienne's jaw set, but she nodded. By candlelight, Jon drafted 2 decrees, one authorizing Sansa's immediate arrest upon arrival, the other appointing a tribunal of 6 lords to witness charges. He signed with a steady hand, though sweat dappled his brow. Each stroke felt like a nail hammered into his own coffin of family bonds. That night, sleep eluded him. He paced the Solar's narrow chamber, walls hung with tapestries of First Men legends, wolves chasing giants under northern moons. Moonlight carved a white path across the floorboards. Jon's reflection stared back from the window, a ghost burdened by crowns not his own. He remembered how Aemon Targaryen had spoken of love and duty at Castle Black. Killing the thing you love to fulfill your oath. The choice had already bled him once. Could a man survive such wounds twice? At first light, riders thundered through the Roserad, banners snapping. A dire wolf on white, a lion over crimson, a green hand of Tyrell. Jon watched them depart from atop the Gate of the Gods. As hooves faded into morning haze, he felt an odd hollowness, as though a part of himself galloped away with them, swept northward toward fate's whetstone. Days passed. He filled them with council sessions, grain levies, petitions from guilds angling for rebuilding contracts. At night he walked the ramparts where wildfire bottles had burst, inhaling the scent of mortar newly set. Each dawn he checked the maester's log of ravens. Each dusk he walked the godswood to stand beneath its young leaves. Bran's face rarely emerged from strategy talks, yet every time their eyes met Jon sensed time slipping quick as sand in an hourglass carved long ago by children of the forest. On the 10th sunset, horns trumpeted from the Mudgate. Brienne's column wended across the drawbridge, rows of knights in tarnished northern plate, crossbowmen in Vale livery, Crownsguard cloaks of white fur freshly trimmed. At the column's heart, a closed carriage rolled, plain except for the dire wolf painted in subdued silver. Jon descended to meet them in the courtyard, heart hammering. Brienne dismounted, helm tucked beneath arm. Dust streaked her cheeks. "No resistance," she reported wearily. "She wished to ride horseback, but I counseled the carriage." Her voice hushed. She did not speak after the Trident, save to ask the names of every village we passed. She recorded them in a notebook. Jon's eyes settled on the carriage door. 2 Crownsguards unlatched it. Sansa Stark stepped onto cobblestones hammered gold by lantern light. She wore no furs of queenly north. Instead, a simple gown of gray linen bound by leather belt. Her hair, once the color of autumn fire, lay in a single braid down her back, streaked with ash gold that caught the lamplight. She looked not at Jon but at the towers rising behind him, assessing defenses, counting arrow slits. "Welcome, Lady Sansa," Jon said, voice carefully measured. Her gaze finally found him, cool blue meeting dark gray. For a heartbeat, He saw the child who begged him for lemon cakes, then the girl who endured Lannister cruelty, then the woman who rallied banners to unseat Ramsay. None lingered long. What remained was a queen stripped of throne yet not of resolve. "Jon," she greeted softly. "I expected a crow's cage." "You are my sister," he answered. "And you my executioner," she returned. Steel rasped from scabbards as guards stiffened. Jon raised a hand. "Not tonight." He stepped aside. "Rooms are prepared." Sansa's lips curved into a smile void of warmth. "Rooms in the Tower of the Hand, or the Black Cells?" "Comfortable chambers facing the river," Jon said. "Until the council convenes." She lifted her chin. "A trial then?" "A reckoning," Jon corrected. She inclined her head, surrendered her satchel to Brienne without protest, and walked into the fortress flanked by silent guards. Jon watched until shadow swallowed her. The wind that drifted after smelled of frost-kissed pines, though no forest stood for leagues. It carried a promise of winter even beneath summer stars. That evening, Jon sat alone before a hearth fire whose flames flared against the dark like a single heartbeat refusing surrender. The map table lay strewn with 2 scrolls, Sansa's letter, and an older charter bearing Robb Stark's broken seal, the proclamation of the Northern Kingdom he once claimed. Jon traced the inked direwolf upon that brittle vellum, feeling history's rise like ice along his spine. 2 kings, 2 siblings, 2 wars, and now a third judgment awaited within these walls. A knock. Tyrion entered. He carried a flagon of Dornish red and 2 cups. "Dreams taste bitter without wine," he said, setting them down. Jon did not object. Tyrion poured and waited until Jon drank. The wine's warmth bloomed through Jon's bones, but the chill lingered. "Have you considered exile?" Tyrion asked softly. "It spares blood, preserves honor. Send her east with coin enough to live. She would vanish beyond the horizon." Jon turned the cup in his hands. "Exile sets a lesson. Betray your king, sail for paradise. Treason will flourish faster than grapevines. None. Execution sets another lesson," Tyrion noted. Voice neutral. "That mercy bows to fear, even in Starks." He sighed. "There is a tale my father told once." Jon raised a hand. "No more tales. She stands trial in 3 days. I need you to argue the realm's case." Tyrion's shoulders sagged. "I will do my duty." After he left, embers settled into soft glow. Jon rested his head against cold stone. He imagined Highgarden's rose terraces surrendered to weeds if the crown faltered, the wall unmanned if the realm fractured. Free folk again prey to ice and silence. Duty weighed heavier than all snowfields of the north combined. He dreamed of Ned that night, but the dream twisted. Ned knelt in a snowy clearing, greatsword extended in offering toward Jon. Its blade was ice itself, clear and lethal. Jon reached to take it, but the sword melted into water that streamed between his fingers, freezing into shackles around wrists that bled. Ned's voice echoed like distant thunder. "The blade is not the burden. The burden is choosing to bear it." Jon woke before dawn, wrists tingling. Morning light carried chill, though midsummer had not yet waned. Criers along the Street of Sisters read proclamations, summoning lords to witness the trial. Stonesons paused to listen, hammers idle. Market wives whispered of king-slayer sisters and the folly of wolves eating their own. Gold cloaks doubled patrols. In the Red Keep's library, Sam spent the day compiling precedents. Aenys' pardon of Lord Darklyn, Maegor's beheading of Sir Rogar, Jaehaerys' exile of Sira Targaryen. He presented them to Jon with hands trembling beneath parchment weight. "There is a path," Sam insisted, "where mercy serves the throne stronger than death." Jon appreciated his friend's courage, but offered no promise. The choice rooted itself deeper each hour, branching into nightmare vines. That night, as council candles burned low, thunder rolled across the bay. Jon stepped onto a balcony overlooking torchlit courtyards. Rain began to fall. First sparse drops, then a deluge pounding tiles, sluicing through gargoyle mouths and torrents. Lightning split the sky, illuminating Sansa's dim window across the yard. Jon imagined her watching the storm as he did, counting heartbeats between flash and roar. Dawn broke clear, the storm spent. The city glistened, washed of ash but not of fear. Jon donned black leather, buckled Longclaw, and pushed open doors to the corridor leading to the throne chamber now readied for tribunals. Each step drummed an echo he could neither flee nor silence. He paused before entering, listening to murmurs within. Tyrion's clipped argument, Sam's softer counsel, the scrape of Bran's chair across marble. Beyond those voices thrummed a hush possessed by hundreds. Lords, ladies, small folk granted admittance for truth's sake. A living witness to judgment. Jon inhaled, felt the chill of winter breath settle into his lungs, and stepped through the archway into a hall bathed in pale morning light. Sansa stood already at the room's center, unchained, posture regal. Her eyes found his, not with plea nor hatred, but with unwavering acceptance of her path, of his, of the chasm that yawned between. A clarion rang. The tribunal was called to order, and the tree grew another branch. Nya-a-k. The clarion's echo dissolved into the hush of hundreds. Stone pillars climbed toward the rafters like frozen trunks of some vast subterranean forest, candle-egg smoke curling about their capitals in ghostly wreaths. Outside, gulls wheeled over the reborn city, but their cries could not pierce the thick silence that preceded judgment. At the highest dais, Bran the Broken sat in his wheeled chair, the raised platform draped in stark gray and crown blue velvet. On either side, 6 tribunal seats waited. Tyrion Lannister first among them, flanked by Samwell Tarly, Sir Brienne of Tarth, Lord Davos Seaworth, Lord Gendry Baratheon, and Maester Ebros newly summoned from Old Town. A simple hardwood chair, uncarved save for the ring of 7 stars, burned into its crest, faced them on the mosaic floor. Sansa stood beside that chair, hands clasped lightly before her. She had chosen no jewels, no furs thick with northern pride. The plain linen fell to her ankles, cinched with a leather belt whose buckle bore the direwolf. Her ruddy gold hair lay braided yet unadorned, a queen stripped to her essence rather than her power. In that simplicity she seemed taller, as if claiming height from the expectation of those gazes fixed upon her. Jon Snow positioned himself a half-pace behind Bran's right shoulder, cloak pinned by Stark direwolf and Targaryen 3-headed dragon. Symbols once bitterly opposed now welded by duty. Longclaw rested at his hip. The faint scrape of the pommel against the chair's bronze scrollwork was the only sound he made, but every inch of him felt raw, torn between the instinct to step forward and shield his sister from what must come, and the conviction that steel and certainty alone could keep the realm intact. A herald unfurled a parchment. His voice, brittle with nerves, cracked on the first words, yet gathered strength as protocol steadied him. Let it be known to all assembled that this tribunal convenes at the order of his grace, Bran Stark, first of his name, King of the Andals and the Rhoynar and the First Men, Lord of the 6 Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm. On this, the 3rd day of the 10th moon of the year, 305 after Aegon's conquest, charges of treason and incitement to rebellion are brought forth against the Lady Sansa Stark of Winterfell. The seized charges, judged. The herald stepped back. Murmurs rose, subdued as cloth dragged across stone, then faded. Tyrion cleared his throat, rose, and descended 2 steps toward the hall's center. Candlelight light glittered in the silver shot through his blonde hair. He held no scroll. His words would bear their own authority. "Lady Sansa," he began, voice resonant, "it was I, in the end, who proposed your brother Bran for the crown. I insisted the realm required a king who could not father tyrants, a king whose sole ambition would be harmony. Your letters," he gestured delicately, "threatened to unmake the fragile cloth we began stitching." Scarcely a fortnight passed. His gaze swept the gallery, finding lords in muted silks, craftsmen in soot-stained jerkins, and barefoot septas hugging prayer beads. "The crown wishes understanding before it dispenses justice. Will you tell us why you declared the North a free kingdom without consulting this council, or the king you helped crown?" Sansa inclined her head. "I will answer any question, my lord. Then let us start where the parchment begins. You write that the North was promised freedom when Aegon Targaryen breathed his last. To whom was that promise offered? And by whom? No, by my brother Robb rather than Aegon forged the promise with his blood, Sansa said, voice firm yet unhurried. He was crowned king in the north amid banners of every northern house. Though his war failed, the vow of independence endured in the hearts of our people. Jon's slaying of Daenerys Targaryen, a flicker cut across her gaze, removed the immediate yoke of dragon conquest. The realm chose Bran through counsel, not conquest. The north chooses differently. Deborn? Murmurs rippled. Samwell Tarly shifted on his seat, quill scratching notes. Tyrion paced a measured semicircle. The realm also bleeds differently, he replied. We are but weeks beyond civil war. Rebellion in one kingdom invites unrest in six. The crown's survival, so newly born, depends on unity, not succession fantasies. Have you no care for the small folk, who will starve if levy grain spoils under marching boots? Sansa's eyes did not waver. I have intimate care for small folk, Lord Tyrion. I was one, stripped of name, of security, at the mercy of monsters in crimson cloaks. Those monsters have lost thrones and heads, yet the machinery that birthed them skulks under these very stones. She glanced skyward, as though seeing the dragon skulls, still hidden in vaulted corridors. The North will not trust broken wheels repaired by the same smiths. A hum of agreement rose from the gallery, especially among Northmen and a pocket of Riverlanders. Jon felt his jaw tighten. Tyrion tapped his fingers against his thigh. Very eloquent, Tyrion conceded. But I require facts, not sentiments. Did you consult Lord Manderley before sending this letter in his name? More. I consulted those whose loyalty I trust, she answered. Wyman's heir rides with his signature sewn into his cloak. And Lord Royce of the Vale, does he intend knights to line your border if the crown declines your plea? Sansa's lips quirked. Ask Lord Royce, she said as bronze-browed. Broad-shouldered Jan Royce stood in the second gallery tier. He merely set his jaw like a drawbridge, and gave no reply. Across the dais Sir Brienne's gauntlet tightened on the hilt of Oathkeeper. She spoke for the first time, voice ringing like tempered steel. Lady Sansa, you know I hold your guardianship sacred, yet I cannot stand silent if lives hang unguarded by truth. What boundaries define the north you assert? The neck west of Greywater? Bare islands channels? Or is the frontier simply whatever your armies can hold? Sansa met Brienne with a tenderness that softened her jaw. "Do, I would sooner tear my own heart from my chest than drag you into war, sir. The north draws its border where it always has, where the land learns to bow to winter. Those lands feed northerners. We claim no more." Brienne inclined her head but did not sit. Lord Davos stood next, weather-scarred face shadowed. "When last we spoke at Winterfell, you said you trusted Jon's judgment though it tore him near in two." His voice caught on the memory. "Do you now cast that trust aside?" Sansa's demeanor shifted. Pain flickered briefly. "I trust Jon to do what he believes right." She looked not at Davos but at Jon himself. "And I trust myself to do the same." Sometimes two rights oppose like cliffs across a chasm. Jon felt the gaze of the hall pivot toward him. He kept his face carved in winter stone, but inside, chasms yawned. Tyrion folded his arms. "You speak of trust, but correspond in secret, stirring houses to pledge swords before presenting grievances in peaceful petition. That secrecy, my lady, defines treason." Sansa took the wooden chair. She rested hands upon her lap. "I did what every great house has done since the conquest. Gather allies before the joust, else one rides alone. I will face this court with no illusions. You hold my life in your hands." Her eyes found each tribunal member. "I am prepared to answer for my actions. But I will not apologize for protecting the North from another southern mercy that arrives wrapped in wildfire." Depth sense. A hush deepened. Rain began again, pattering against high-arched windows. Tyrion lifted a palm as if leveling the air. "We have heard Lady Stark's reasoning. Let the record note her admission. She authored and dispatched letters seeking armed support for secession. The charge of treason stands uncontested." Samwell Tarly rose, face flushed, "But contested in motive," he countered. "We cannot weigh guilt absent context. A king's justice without mercy courts tyranny. I propose the tribunal call witnesses to speak on Lady Sansa's devotion to the realm. Deeds that outweigh the perceived injury. Naomne. Tyrion's brow lifted in mild surprise, but Bran murmured, "Granted." Sam nodded to the bailiff. Doors swung wide, admitting an elderly woman with hair white as frost. The Lady Barbary Dustin, her cane thumping soft carpet. She had ridden 60 leagues in a cushioned litter, yet her gray eyes retained the storm of a bitter widow. Barbary halted before the dais. "I served Lord Eddard Stark's father as bedmaid and more," she declared without prompting. "I saw the young wolves of Winterfell grow. Sansa Stark has their marrow. She saved the North from Ramsay Snow, a Bolton dog who filleted his foes. She paid for that victory with her body and her womb. For this crown to hang her would be as hanging Ned Stark twice." A ripple coursed through the hall. Tyrion stepped forward. "Lady Dustin, we honor your service. Yet your loyalty may cloud your recollection. The crown does not dispute Lady Sansa's courage, only her present defiance." "It is not defiance," Barbary snapped. "It is loyalty to northern dead. Ask your maesters. Winter will revisit these lands sooner than you believe. While the Reach plucks peaches, we dig graves in permafrost. How many southern kings kept us safe? None. Each drained us of grain, of sons, and rode south before the snows." She angled her cane at Jon. "Even your dragon queen abandoned the wall until the dead nearly ate her city. The North cannot risk such cycles again." Davos whispered to Sam, pen scratching. Tyrion bowed. "Thank you for your insight. Please rest, we may recall you." Guards helped Barbary aside. The next witness was a surprise even to Jon. Podrick Payne-Atado. The young knight strode, polished breastplate, reflecting torchlight. He spoke of Sansa's governance during the long night, how she rationed food, soothed fears, and turned green boys to disciplined watchmen while generals planned war. "She kept us all alive," he finished. "If that is treason, then perhaps the realm deserves no loyal servants." Gendry's fist thumped the armrest in approval. Murmurs of concurring smallfolk drifted from rear benches. Outside, thunder growled. The trial pressed on. Tyrion called maesters to read ciphered passages from Sansa's letters. Sam countered with extracts of Winterfell ledgers showing grain shipments south, even during war's shortage. Brienne recounted atrocities in the north that southern lords never avenged. Davos spoke of sails he'd seen out east, sell sails sniffing for chaos, ready to carve new kingdoms where crowns wobbled. "Your quarrel may invite wolves of Essos," he warned. Hours stretched. Candles replaced candles. Shadows crept like spectators across the floor. Bran seldom moved, save to dip his head occasionally. Eyes distant, perhaps seeing futures none present could guess. When dusk stained the windows crimson, Bran's soft voice halted proceedings. "Enough for this day. We reconvene after first bell tomorrow. Lady Sansa shall be returned to her quarters under guard. The tribunal shall retire to deliberate evidence already heard. New witnesses may appear after sunrise." The clarion sounded. Gallery crowds rose, buzzing like bees in an overturned hive. Sansa bowed slightly to the dais, then turned. Brienne and 2 guards accompanied her through the east archway. At the threshold she paused, glancing back to Jon. He remained motionless, though his throat bobbed once. Outside, rain thickened, drumming on cloaks and helms. Jon dismissed his duties to the steward, ignoring proffered supper, and sought the god's wood. Night cloaked the sapling weirwood in silver dew. Jon knelt beneath it, rain mingling with tears he did not realize had fallen. Memories roared, Sansa laughing in the crypts, Sansa's voice trembling when she described Ramsay's hunts, Sansa singing lullabies to frightened children while dragons shrieked overhead. He did not hear Bran roll to the trunk until wet wheels whispered on grass. Moonlight painted the king's profile in frost. "You watched her all day," Bran said. "Ace, did you?" Jon retorted. "I see more than the hall," Bran corrected gently. "I see golden banners massing near Harrenhal, doubt coiling in Riverlanders' bellies, whispers in the arbor that another queen's fledgling sails for storm's end." Jon rose. then you know this decision cannot be delayed. Every hour we stall, edges sharpen. Time also cools forges, Bran replied. A sword tempered too quickly shatters. Jon's voice cracked. You asked me to spare her. I asked nothing, Bran said. I only remind you that paths extend beyond the ridge you see. Jon clenched fistfuls of wet grass. If the North walks it alone, the realm crumbles. Or if the North is bound, its wounds may fester, Bran answered. Lightning flashed, white lines on rain-slick leaves. In that illumination, Jon glimpsed the ravens perched above. Black silhouettes, silent sentinels. He thought of Maester Aemon's counsel once more. Love is the death of duty. But what if duty demanded the death of love twice? He felt hollowed, as if the storm had scoured marrow from his bones. A horn sounded across the yard. 2 blasts, not alarm but formal announcement. A messenger approached under cloak, bowing deeply. My Lord Protector, a rider from the Riverlands arrived post-haste. Urgent dispatch for you alone. She handed a wax-sealed note. Direwolf imprint again. Jon broke the seal. Ink blurred in rain. He ducked beneath a colonnade torch. V. Bennett. Brother. They come. But not only Manderley's heir but Karstark's and Glover's march behind him. They say if your court harms me, they will claim King Rickon's crown by winter's first frost. They have rallied behind little Rickon, our brother's boy, named him the young wolf reborn. I counseled against, yet they hunger for banners. Their stride quickens. Do what you must. Whatever you decide, hold fast to who you are. S. Jon reread until the words bled together. The storm's roar muffled his heartbeat. King Rickon. He envisioned the shaggy-haired child who once toddled across Winterfell's yard, chasing Shaggydog. Rickon had perished at Ramsay's arrow, yet love of story bred illusions. Some would crown a corpse memory if it marched them to vengeance. He folded the letter. Bran waited, gaze distant. The North fractures further, Jon growled. They raise Rickon from the grave to force our hand. Bran's lids lowered. Which hand? Yours? Or theirs? Jon had no answer. Lightning boomed. He strode away through the rain, leaving Bran to shadows. He returned to his solar, stripped soaked leathers, and poured hearth wine. Flames snapped, echoing the persistent war inside him. He unrolled maps, the next choke points, Carhold's passes, Bear Island's coastlines. Each inked mark was a memory. Friends buried beneath snow, enemies beneath ash. He calculated supply lines, weeks to muster forces. Yet each figure ended in pyres, peasant huts torched when armies stripped gardens bare. War cost truth first, innocence second, and hope last. Could he sanction such cost to preserve a crown forged only days past? The door thudded. Enter, he called. Ser Brienne stepped in, cloak dripping. Lady Sansa requests you, she said. Moisture traced her cheek, but whether rain or tears Jon could not tell. Jon hesitated but slipped fresh tunic over damp skin and followed. Down torchlit stairs, they passed storerooms where grain sacks loomed like bloated corpses. Through a narrow corridor, they reached a small salon overlooking the river, converted to guest quarters for highborn detainees. Guards parted. Brienne remained outside. Inside, Sansa stood by an open window, night air tugging stray strands of her braid. She did not turn. Dorm's dying, she murmured. Jon shut the door. You asked for me. You came. She sounded neither grateful nor surprised. He approached slowly. Why did you write Rickon's name on banners? She faced him. Candlelight drew hollows beneath tired eyes. I did not. They did. I cannot chase every rumor across the Wolfswood. She rubbed her arms. I fear they'll crown his ghost if it gives them courage. Your letters did, Jon said. Courage or provocation? Breath. She replied, voice fraying. I wrote to give them breath in a room grown stifling. He stiffened. You will call off your lords. Would you call off yours if roles reversed? She asked softly. Jon's hands fisted. I would die before I risked war upon innocence again. I am prepared for death, Sansa whispered. Silence fell, thick as fresh fallen snow. The city's torches glittered on the river below. Jon moved to the hearth, stirring embers. Tomorrow, the tribunal continues. Witnesses may sway them, offer contrition, speak of compromise. Bran might grant dominion akin to the Vale, internal autonomy beneath the crown. It will soothe no one, she said. The North's desire is simple, to never kneel south again. Jon clasped the mantle, bowing his head. Then you doom thousands. And if I bend, I doom thousands north of the neck, she countered. Children with frostbitten fingers who shiver while southern courts debate fashion. She stepped closer. The scent of pine soap followed her. Jon, we are both tied to worlds we never asked for. I once dreamed of lemon cakes. You dreamed of freedom on the wall. Now here we stand, each a blade poised at the Uter's heartbeat, because the realm demands spectacle. Jon met her eyes. In them he saw the weeping girl in King's Landing's courtyard, the young widow who learned to smile through horror, the commander who rallied knights from ashes. He reached for words but found ashes between his teeth. Sansa inhaled. I do not seek martyrdom. But if your tribunal deems execution necessary, promise me one thing. He swallowed. Anything within my power. Send my body north. Lay me beside Mother beneath the weirwood. Let the North remember I died a Stark, not a Southern pawn. Jon's vision blurred. He nodded. Sansa reached, fingertips brushing his forearm. Thank you for coming. Rest now. Tomorrow will carve us anew. He hesitated. Then he bent, pressed brow against her hand. A gesture halfway between farewell and apology, and withdrew. Back in the corridor, Brienne studied him. He said nothing, descending toward his chamber. Sleep arrived like a thief, snatching consciousness, then flooding it with dreams of snowstorms tinted red. He woke before dawn. The storm had passed, leaving skies brittle blue. At first bell, the tribunal reconvened. The hall felt altered, air taut, watchers leaning forward as if drawn by an unseen tide. Tyrion announced the appearance of Lord Jon Royce. The Lord of Runestone stepped forward, armor etched with runic falcons. He testified that Sansa's missive offered no bribes or threats. It merely requested houses honor northern independence should they deem it just. The Vale holds long memory, Royce concluded. We recall when Iron Men reaved our coasts while southern kings quarreled. If the North's safety requires sovereign rule, might not the Vale's? A ripple of startled murmurs twisted through the lords of the Crownlands. Tyrion's expression tightened, but Sam interjected with a plea for calm. Next came Maester Walken of Winterfell, presenting records of crop failures and direwolf pack resurgences that threatened livestock. He recounted the collapse of holdfast walls weakened by undead siege, requiring stone and labor the crown delayed to supply. Their resentment finds fertile ground, he warned. After midday pause, Tyrion called his crucial witness. Bronze Janessa, a courier captured near Whitescar, carrying sealed pledges from Carhold, touting loyalty unto Queen Sansa. Under oath, she admitted the letters instructed Karstark troops to seize Last Hearth should its lord refuse fealty. Gasps echoed. The ground of Sansa's defense trembled. Tyrion raised the parchment. Lady Stark's cause claims to guard the north, yet here orders conquest against those she calls people. How is that protection? Sansa listened, face pale. I did not draft those orders, she said. Nor did I seal them. I suspect overzealous lords. Her voice wavered for the first time. Tyrion pressed. Do you disavow them? She opened her mouth, closed it. At length she whispered, I cannot command what I cannot control. Jon's heart tightened. Tyrion pivoted to the dais. The lady admits her coalition moves of its own momentum. This rebellion cannot be contained by pardon. Sever one head to sprout. The hall's weight shifted. Jon felt it. Gendry's eyes flicked to Bran uneasily. Brienne's brow furrowed. Sam skimmed pages, searching for lifelines. Davos' fingers drummed anxious cadence. Evening fell again, tribunal retiring to deliberate. The gallery emptied slowly, clusters debating. Rain-washed air drifted through high apertures, laden with salt and soot. Jon approached Bran's platform. Tyrion lingered nearby, face drawn. "The council leans toward conviction," Tyrion murmured. "Sam petitions for exile. Brienne stands with him. Gendry uncertain. Davos sees storms brewing, yet fears the cost of pardon. Maester Idros weighs precedent. She may tip either way. It slants to 3 for mercy, 3 for death." "You?" Jon asked. Tyrion's shoulders slumped. "I fear whichever path births greater carnage. I cannot divine it. I cannot watch another city burn for ideals." Bran's eyes regarded them. "The choice will present itself at dawn. Until then, speak to those who must decide." Tyrion departed. Jon remained. Lightning flashed far off toward the stepstones. Storms still prowled. Bran's voice floated, soft as a raven's wing. "You see stormlines too?" Jon nodded. "I see ash." "Then light a fire to ward it," Bran said. Jon stared. "What fire?" But Bran wheeled away. Jon walked long that night, through sleeping corridors echoing with his boots, past cells where captured sellsword snored, through armories stacked with captured Lannister spears. One corridor opened onto the rookery. Ravens croaked in candlelight glow. Maester Idros stood there, feeding a gray juvenile whose feathers still puffed kitten soft. "You walk restless," the old maester remarked. Jon glanced at the bird. "Ravens carry words. Words carry wars. Wars carry ravens in turn." Idros chuckled weakly. "Life's wheel, eh?" Jon hesitated. "If mercy invites rebellion, how does one crown survive without blood?" Idros' eyes shone behind spectacles. "By convincing rebels their dream breathes easier inside the crown than outside. Give the North freedom to breathe, not to flee." Jon leaned on the stone sill. "A charter? A vow etched in laws older than conquest," Idros said. "The first men once swore pacts with children of the forest, fealty bound by weirwood sap and men's blood. Renew such pact, carve it into the new governance. Let the North rule itself in peace yet rise in war beside 6 kingdoms. A marriage of necessity." "Man and now." Jon exhaled. "Bran lacks heirs. The realm will challenge his successor, then forge a council of kingdoms to choose each king anew," Idros proposed, shrugging frail shoulders. "Adaptation is survival's sharper blade." Jon turned the notion in his mind. A high council of realms, where the North sits equal but free. Could Sansa accept such halfway kingdom? He paced rooftops until dawn bruised the east in rose silver. Bells tolled first light. The tribunal reconvened for verdict. The hall pulsed, anticipation thick enough to swallow. Sansa stood once more at center, chin high though color fled her cheeks. Brienne laid a mailed hand upon her shoulder briefly. A silent vow. Bran spoke first, words drifting across the hush like snowflakes. "The tribunal has found Lady Sansa Stark guilty of treasonous correspondence and seditious intent." Gasps. A sob in the rear. Bran raised a hand. "Yet it is divided on sentence. Half petition mercy, half insist execution." Jon stepped forward. "Then as protector of the realm I undertake judgment." A collective inhale surged. Jon continued, voice steady despite tremor within. "I have heard each argument. I have walked battlefields littered with brothers. I will not see them littered again." He turned towards Sansa, locking eyes. "Lady Stark, your cause rings with love for our home yet fails in trust for those beyond its hills. The crown cannot permit letters that summon swords. But the crown also cannot pretend winter ends at the neck." He faced the tribunal. "I propose conditional clemency, a charter declaring the North an autonomous quarter of the realm. It shall govern its laws, taxes, and defenses. Yet in time of external war, it shall ride beside the crown as equal spears. The charter shall stand so long as the Stark line upholds fealty in war. Should they renounce, the charter dissolves and full allegiance returns, or rebellion is named." Ripples of surprise coursed. Gendry leaned to Sam, whispering. Sam's eyes widened with dawning hope. Davos stroked beard. Brienne's posture straightened. Jon continued. Lady Sansa's life is spared. She shall return to Winterfell as Warden Regent of the autonomous North, swearing upon weirwood sapling planted here that no host will cross the neck, save by mutual accord of council and North. Any violation brands her traitor anew. He inhaled. Weight immense. This is my judgment. I will enforce it with my sword if broken. A hush crashed like surf. Then Tyrion rose slowly. The council must vote to accept. Bran looked to each member. Cast now. Tyrion. Aye. Sam. Aye. Brienne. Aye. Davos. After long pause. Aye. Gendry glanced across the hall at small folk who had cheered him once. Aye. Maester Ebe rose, fingertips trembling, spoke last. Aye. Bran nodded. So be it. The North stands free within union. The life of Sansa Stark is spared. Relief and trepidation swirled. Cheers from northern throats. Uncertain chatter among Crownland's merchants. Sansa's eyes glistened. Her posture swayed as though a gale passed through. Jon stepped forward to steady her, grasping her shoulders. She whispered, "Thank you," voice broken. But murmurs twisted, among clusters of Stormlanders, whispers of weakness. Among Reach Lords, murmurs of opportunity. Bran raised his hand. Let charters be drafted before dusk. Let ravens fly. He turned to Sansa. Kneel. She did, rain-damp linen brushing mosaic. Bran raised no sword, only extended his hand. Swear, Tyonde. I, Sansa of House Stark, she said, voice ringing clear. Swear that the North shall keep peace with the Six Kingdoms, shall render aid against foes beyond these shores, and shall never march south without the Crown's request or consent. So witnessed, Bran affirmed. The hall thundered applause, reluctant or eager. Jon felt knees weaken with release, but duty knit sinew anew. He signaled guards. Escort Lady Stark to her chambers to prepare departure. As she rose, a figure leapt from gallery. Knife glinting. Usurper wolf, he cried. Before guards could react, the assassin reached Sansa. Jon lunged, shoving her aside. Steel flashed, pain exploded along his ribs. He gutted the assailant with a single stroke of Longclaw. Blood sprayed the mosaic, mingling red with the stark gray of the stone direwolf underfoot. Chaos erupted. Tyrion barked orders. Brienne dragged Sansa back, shields locking. Davos knelt at Jon's side. Jon pressed hand to wound, crimson flooding fingers. The assassin lay convulsing, eyes glassy. Sigil of a flayed man sewn to his jerkin. Bolton vengeance still alive. Jon's vision blurred. He saw Bran's silhouette, wheels grinding forward. Sansa crouched, tears streaking cheeks. Stay with me, she begged. Jon tasted copper. He managed a wry smile. Seems, winter isn't done with me yet. He swayed. Davos and Gendry lowered him onto a cloak. Maesters rushed. The hall spun, pillars twisting like ice spires. Sansa gripped his hand as healers cut away leather, revealing the gash just below lung. Each breath hissed like wind through broken shutters. Hold, she whispered fiercely. Hold, Jon. He met her eyes. North. Free, he breathed. Yes, she sobbed. Yes, brother. Rest, Dottie. There is peace. Then? His eyelids slid. Darkness beckoned warm as wolf fur. He clung to the faint echo of Bran's voice. Time cools forges, brother. Heal. Then choose anew. Blackness swallowed torchlight. In its depth, snow drifted gently. He felt ghosts' white presence, felt the walls' timeless hush. Somewhere distant, bells rang not of war, but of homecoming. The realm tilted, but did not shatter. And Jon Snow surrendered to its turning, trusting that, when next his eyes opened, dawn would find a world where wolves and men might yet share the same sky without drawing blood. Caen. Gay. Rain drummed upon turrets newly set by masons, whispering a lullaby as old as the conqueror's walls. Beneath those murmuring eaves, the maester's infirmary glowed like a lantern in fog, its casement windows fogged with steam from simmering kettles of poppy seed milk and sour-leaf tincture. Candlewicks sputtered atop shelves crowded with jars, crushed mint, honeycomb paste, powdered hartshorn, each aroma folding into an unseen shroud that clung to linen screens and silent watchers alike. Jon Snow lay motionless on a wide oaken table strewn with crimson-spattered linens. Beneath his half-open tunic, the wound gaped, a jagged 6-inch tear angling up beneath the lowest ribs toward his left lung. Maester Orwell's calloused fingers probed the torn flesh, pupils narrowed in meticulous concentration. A cluster of apprentices hovered round, palms pressed to aprons for fear of trembling. Wizards of steel and thread they might seem, yet each heartbeat under Jon's pallid skin echoed in their ears as testament to human frailty. Sansa stood just inside the doorway, cloak soaked through, auburn hair coiled to her spine like a serpent. Brienne barred the threshold with armored breath, blade in hand, face carved in terror's stoic disguise. Tyrion dangled upon a stool near the hearth, gaze fixed on the floorboards. Every so often he swallowed a tremor in his throat, as if drowning in memories of another brother bleeding upon white stone. Maester Orwell muttered. The blade missed the lung's apex by a hair of Dorne. Thank the Seven. He snipped charred cloth away, silver scissors glinting red. But the intercostals are torn through. It will breathe fire inside his chest each time he draws air. He leaned aside. Aloys, thread, Doherty Cole. Apprentice Aloys, a lank youth whose freckles looked as if the gods had sprinkled cinnamon upon snow, passed a curved needle trembling between tongues. Orwell drew it slowly through flame, then doused it in clear liquor. He began stitching, over, under, smooth, relentless, while murmuring, Lord Protector you may be, Stark, but tonight you fight as any common soldier. Jon's eyelids fluttered once, responding to pressure and sting. Sansa inhaled sharply. She had changed from her rain-soaked dress into a simple wool shift, dyed gray so dark it drank the room's candlelight. Yet still water glistened along her lashes. She stepped closer. Hold, Brienne advised softly. Let them work. I will not hinder them, Sansa whispered. She advanced to the table's foot. Jon's chest rose shallowly, his skin pale as fresh ivory polished by the seas. Orwell's needle traced crimson loops across muscle. With each pull, blood welled in small beads until Orwell's assistant blotted with linen. Sansa watched, breathing in tandem with each stitch, as if by inhaling she might tug thread through his flesh, closing the gulf between them. Tyrion lifted tired eyes. He will live, he said, half statement, half plea. Orwell answered without glancing up. If rot does not set in. We have boiled cutter's root and willow bark for fever, but the wound runs deep. He must rest. No council chambers, no training yards, no ramparts beneath open sky. He drew the final knot. Lady Sansa, step forward if you wish. The worst is done. Sansa brushed past Brienne, ignoring the rustle of caution. She came to Jon's side, laid trembling fingers upon his wrist. The pulse beat slow but steady, a drum muffled behind distant hills. She whispered, I am here, little brother. Jon's brow twitched. A faint exhalation parted cracked lips. Eyes closed. He was a man returned to boyhood innocence, cheeks smoothed of worry lines etched these past brutal years. Sansa bowed her head. A single tear spilled across his knuckles and vanished in the dark hair at his wrist. Behind them the hall doors swung wide. Bran glided through, wheels whispering across flagstones. The hush deepened. Apprentices dipped heads as though a breeze of ancient winter brushed through their souls. Bran halted before the table, pale eyes reflecting hearth fire. Will he survive? He asked. Orwell, wiping bloody fingers upon cloth, bowed. The flesh is sealed. The spirit must choose the rest. Bran reached, laying 2 fingers gently on Jon's forehead. Though his skin appeared fragile as candle wax, Bran's touch carried weight. Centuries of tree root and raven flight. Candle flames flickered momentarily, then steadied. Bran withdrew. He dreams of a field of color, Bran murmured. A meadow beneath the wall, where snowdrops blossom between frost cracks. He walks there with Ghost at his side. Bran met Sansa's eyes. The wolf keeps him tethered. Sansa closed her eyes. Then, let the wolf not falter. Bran nodded once. I leave him to your watch. The hall calls for swift order. News of the assassin's sigil spreads like oil on water. He rolled back toward doors where Sir Davos waited, anxious to guide his king. Tyrion followed Bran out. Only Bran, Sansa, and the maesters remained. One apprentice poured warm river water over Yon's flank, washing dried gore. Another bound the sutured wound with linen kissed by pine pitch for antisepsis. Soon the operation condensed. A quiet choreography of cleaning, binding, adjusting pillows. At last, Orwell motioned to a litter. 4 burly guards lifted Jon, careful not to jostle. Every labored breath counted. They carried him to a small chamber, adjoining the infirmary. Walls lined with cedar panels, a single narrow window slitted for archers, now admitting moonlight. There they laid him upon feather mattress. Orwell ordered brazier lit to chase dampness, then dismissed apprentices to fetch draughts. At the door, he paused. "My lady," he said to Sansa, voice dropping. "What he needs now above all is peace of mind." She nodded. "I shall see he has it." Orwell left. Brienne lingered. "Go," Sansa told her. "Guard the corridor." Brienne hesitated. Sansa's gaze softened. "If I require steel, I will find you." Brienne accepted, closing the door behind. Sansa sat upon a stool beside bed. Night lamps burned low. She laid her palm across Jon's brow, pushing damp curls from eyes closed beneath the weight of poppy milk. She murmured old songs, half-remembered northern lullabies their mother once hummed, to stave the hush. Outside, the castle roiled. Rumors darted along passages like startled swallows. Bolton loyalists within the guard, sellsword companies massing at the Blackwater mouth, lords of the Reach sending envoys to test the crown's brews, all while their lord protector bled. 3 hours passed. Jon's breathing steadied, though each inhale still rasped. Sansa found her mind drifting to the assassin's final cry, "Usurper wolf." Who orchestrated this? A ragged remnant of House Bolton seeking vengeance? Or a broader conspiracy to fracture the realm anew? The door creaked. Samwell Tarly eased inside, arms laden with books. He set them at the foot of the bed, and lowered his bulk upon a cushioned bench. "Maester Orwell asked me to keep vigil as well," he explained softly. "Said I carry a calming presence. I suspect he means I wheeze louder than patient snore." Sansa managed a wan smile. "You are welcome company, Sam." He drew a book, Physica Hermetia. Flipped pages absent-mindedly, but his gaze soon strayed to Jon's face. "You know," he whispered, "when I first met him at Castle Black, he looked just like this. Cheeks hollow from wind, sorrow hidden behind closed lids, and yet hopeful." Sansa supplied. Sam nodded. "Yes. Hope even in sleep." Sansa leaned back, exhaustion slumping shoulders. "Will the realm hate us for sparing me but costing him blood?" Sam sighed. "The realm will judge acts, not hearts. Saving him will prove price enough." Sansa's eyes closed. She breathed deep. Jon murmured something. "Arya," barely audible. She leaned forward again, gripping his hand. "Hush," she whispered. "She roams wild and free. No cages hold her." Jon relaxed. Outside, the hour bell tolled thrice, signifying deepest night. In the courtyard far below, booted patrols clanked, torches painting arcs of orange across puddles. The storm's tail had moved eastward, leaving skies polished and clear. But the hush between notes of wind, slithering though crenellations, felt laden with secrets, seeking cracks. At last Sansa allowed Sam to hold vigil while she fetched water from a pitcher. Returning, she paused at the window, gazing over Blackwater Bay. In the moon's silver path, the reflection of the rebuilt city blurred, like a half-healed scar. Fires burned on distant quays where fisherfolk smoked catch, faint constellations of crimson beneath the overarching night. Sansa's mind retraced corridors of memory. She saw again the gallery of lords where Gendry thumped his fist, where Tyrion's phrases carved reason, where Bran's voice drifted over hearts like snow. And she saw, too, the face of the assassin in his last breaths. Starved, wild-eyed, bearing flayed sigil. But beneath that sigil, what promise? Who financed his blade? Who smuggled him past White Sword Tower? Footsteps whispered. Brienne entered quietly. "Pardon, my lady," she mouthed. Sansa joined her outside the chamber. Brienne spoke low. "We found 2 others bearing Bolton markings. One killed when guards intercepted him scaling the outer wall. The other fled into Flea Bottom. Gold cloaks pursue. Any sign of who sent them?" Sansa asked. "Not yet," said Brienne. "Davos questions the captured associates, but tongues remain locked." "I will see this man," Sansa decided. "No." The night deepens. "Now," Sansa insisted. "If he harbors truth, it must not cool by dawn." Brienne yielded. Together, they traversed torch-lit passageways until reaching the dungeon stair, a spiral descending to stone heavy with mildew. 2 crownsguards posted outside the 3rd cell saluted Brienne. Inside crouched a gaunt youth no older than 19, wrists shackled to iron ring and wall. His jerkin displayed Bolton-flayed man, but cut seams suggested recent stitching. Mud caked his boots. A scabbed cut gaped across cheekbone. Sansa stepped forward, chin high. "Who sent you?" The prisoner spat. "You." She blinked. "Again." He bared broken teeth. "You, Lady Stark of Winterfell. You will the North to sovereignty. We want the same, but you kneel to your southern brother. Traitor to freedom." Sansa's blood chilled. "Who is we?" "The hand of the young wolf reborn," he hissed. "Our lord rides with thousands. Our knives open the path." Brienne reached, fist closing around the boy's tunic. "Names." "Who leads you?" He cackled. "North remembers. But you'll forget once winter swallows your walls. Our queen fell to Jon Snow's treachery. Now wolves taste wolves." He spat again. Spittle speckled Sansa's hem. Brienne shook him. "Names." He screamed laughter until Brienne dropped him. "Your walls will echo with his howl. Roger Karstark, rightful regent for King Rickon reborn. Marching even now." Sansa's breath caught. She exchanged glance with Brienne. Roger Karstark, a younger cousin of the main line, rumored hot-blooded and unwise, but commanding thousands. She turned. "He will be executed at dawn," she declared coldly, "for attempting regicide and murder of the Lord Protector." To guards, "See it done." As they left, laughter followed, hollow as wind inside a cairn. Back above, Sansa bade Brienne gather the small council. The hour neared dawn, but sleep no luxury now. Within 2 hours, Tyrion, Davos, Gendry, Sam, Maester Aebros, and Lady Sir Brienne assembled in the council chamber. Bran presided. Sansa relayed the prisoner's confession. Tyrion tapped quill against empty goblet. "If Karstark leads renegades, he jeopardizes our charter before ink dries." Davos frowned. Karstarks once swore loyalty to Starks, but they nursed bitterness after loss of their lord to Robb's justice. Roger was boy then, easy prey for revenge-mongers. "Then?" Gendry rubbed stubbled chin. "If he marches, he'll cross the Trident within 10 days. Where's his host now?" Maester Aebros unfurled new Raven scrolls received moments earlier. Reports of large movement near Moat Cailin. Seems they broke camp beneath the ruins. Bran's gaze turned inward. They intend a lightning strike along the King's Road, seizing Last Hearth, then diving south, perhaps as far as the Twins. Should they gain River Lords, they will claim righteous crusade. Sansa exhaled. Jon still heals. The realm lacks commander. Not Shen. Tyrion shifted. Then one must rise. Lady Sansa. Few know the North's men like you. Brienne shook head. She cannot lead armies while the realm sees her as traitor pardoned. The optics. Sansa cut in. Optics drown if blood floods the neck. Davos leaned forward. We require swift deterrent. A raven bearing King Bran's seal ordering Karstark halt, or face King's justice may buy time. Abros shook head. Roger Karstark fancies Bran no king over north. He will burn such parchment to warm hands. Gendry tapped table. What of the Vale? Lord John Royce might intercept at the Trident. Nay. Bran nodded. Send immediate call to Runestone. Request knights to hold the ford at Fair Market. If Roger pushes south, he collides with the Vale's lances. Tyrion scribbled orders. And the Riverlands? Edmure Tully sits idle now. He owes crown after council granted his title. Sansa closed eyes. He is cautious but just. If we present Karstark as threat to peace, Edmure may seal river crossings. Sam added, we also must quell rumors Jon is dying. Fear breeds opportunists. Me? Then tomorrow, Bran decreed, I will roll through city streets, letting people see realm stands unbroken. Lady Sansa will stand at my side. Surprise flickered across faces. Tyrion dared ask, will that not anger Karstark further? I see futures, Bran replied. To show unity now seeds hope that chokes weed of rebellion. Davos grunted approval. Then let's water that seed fast. Orders cascaded. Scribes dashed for parchment. Bran's steward prepared the royal coach. Sam drafted treatises on new charter to post in marketplaces. Brienne doubled guard rotations. Dawn's first gold chased purple sky as ravens beat wings for the Vale and Riverlands. When now? Jon Snow drifted in limbo between sensation and dream. In one moment, he walked among snowdrops that nodded like shy maidens beneath frozen sky. In next, he felt heated iron branding his ribs. Ghosts, white shape, wove through both worlds. Sometimes patting soft petals, sometimes pacing stone floor. Echoes of voices reached. Sam's gentle baritone reading some passage, Orwell's stern admonitions, Sansa's soft lullaby. He clung to them, following each syllable like a rope through mist. Days blurred. Fever came, painting visions of direwolves feasting beneath red moons. At its height he tore bandages, muttering names. Ygritte, Eddie de Daenerys. Sansa cooled brow with cloth steeped in willow bark. She hushed him, bearing weight of each name like stones in pocket. Outside, King Bran and Lady Sansa rode in open carriage. People thronged muddy streets, some cheering, some gawking. Rumors of Jon's death died amid glimpses of him seated upright beside window in infirmary. A ruse orchestrated by Tyrion. A stark-haired guardsman donned cloak and sat silhouette behind gauze, ensuring watchers glimpsed Lord Protector's shadow. The city's whisper turned hopeful. Word from the Vale. Jon Royce mobilized 500 knights, marched toward the Trident. Riverland's banners gathered under Edmure Tully. Mallisters, Blackwoods, Piper. Karstark's vanguard reached the last hearth but found gates barred by Lady Alara Umber, who refused entry. Roger wheeled south around Shivering Wood, seeking softer prey. Jon's body, meanwhile, knitted as needle pulls cloth. Orwell removed stitches, declared lung unharmed. Jon sat propped on pillows by third week, sipping broth. It was then Bran visited. The chamber lay dappled by morning. Jon smelled lemon oil on floor planks fresh scrubbed. Bran wheeled near. How fare you? Jon managed a thin smile. Still breathing, which feels remarkable. Bran regarded wound. Pain? Like a saber-toothed cat gnawing my side, but less each dawn. Bran clasped chair arms. Rogar marches south. Sansa rallies North's loyalty under your charter. She holds all you risked for. Jon's gaze warmed. She leads. She stands at my side, Bran answered. Yet she fears Karstark's vendetta. Jon exhaled. Then I must rise. Not yet, Bran said. Your sword's weight will reopen wound. Then send ghost of me, Jon quipped hoarsely. Rumor saved city once. Bran smiled faintly. In 2 days, rogues may strike Shattered Hill outside Maidenpool. Royce's knights will check them. But you can still shape outcome. Bar to. How? Jon asked. Bran leaned closer. When you healed half. You dreamt of snowdrops. In that field grows a heart tree burned into your spirit. Use it." He closed Joan's eyes with soft fingers. "Send memory of winter's mercy to those who march in rage." Jon felt worlds spin, then calm. He stood, in dream, beside that same heart tree, limbs all white, bone and blood, leaves fluttering. Snow fell, though spring stirred beyond. In the hush he heard boots crunch and saw a host forging south. Karstark banners, flayed men painted across shields, ragged but fierce. Among them trudged gaunt peasants roped to wagons, pressed into service. Rage shimmered from their eyes like heat above black ice. Jon stepped onto the road in dream, ghost beside. Wind swirled, scattering snow petals that kissed soldiers' faces. Their pace slowed. They gazed at flakes, relics of home perhaps forgotten. A hush spread. Jon raised no sword. He simply watched them, silent sentinel under weirwood. One by one men slowed, eyes softening. Some looked ashamed at shivering peasants they dragged. Others saw Ghost Wolf and recognized Northern Creed. In their minds, winter's true enemy returned. Famine, storm, the dead once risen. Their anger toward Southern Crown wavered before memory of what unity conquered. Jon whispered into wind, "Go home. Protect hearths. Hold fast to pack." The words rippled like frost across still water. Snow thickened, then melted into morning mist. He woke, gasp gashing lungs, sweat-drenched tunic. Bran sat unmoved. "What did you see?" Bran asked. Jon described. Bran nodded. "Some will heed." 2 days later, ravens arrived. Karstark's host splintered overnight, half dispersed northward. Some surrendered to Vale Knights. Roger pressed on with skeleton force and was captured at the ford by Edmure Tully's men. No battle. His men laid down arms at sight of river lords lined in quiet ranks. Peace spilled instead of blood. The council gathered to hear. Tyrion toasted with arbor gold. Davos exhaled relief. Sansa closed eyes, whispering thank you to gods old and new. Jon, though pale, stood supported by Sam and Brienne, wearing simple black doublet. Bran declared, "Let Karstark stand trial at Winterfell under Lady Sansa's rule. Let his men choose pardon through oath renewed." Cheers erupted. Yet Jon sensed deeper currents remain. Reach lords still weigh independence. Ironborn sniff at chance to raid. But for first time since dragons melted thrones, Westeros breathed. Weeks turned. Jon healed enough to walk the godswood. Under sapling weirwood he met Sansa one crisp dusk. Sunset spilled crimson across leaves. "Your charter saved me," she said. "And your counsel saved the realm." Jon smiled ruefully. "And your stubbornness forged our freedom." She laughed soft. "I will always be stubborn if it keeps you alive." Then voice dimmed. "I sail tomorrow north. Bran insists I oversee Karstark trial. I would have you ride with me." Jon touched healing scar. "Maesters forbid long journeys yet, but when frost kisses ground I'll follow." Sansa accepted. Wind danced her braid. "Snow will fall soon." Jon gazed at sapling. "Snow always falls, but we rise." They stood side by side as twilight deepened. Two branches of the same tree reaching toward unknown seasons, rooted in blood, lifted by hope. Wah! Sansa sailed aboard Grey Dawn. A swift carrack trimmed in stark banners and crown colors mingled. Gull cries escorted them to open sea. She spent voyage writing decrees of amnesty for those peasants conscripted by Karstark, letters of condolence to Umber families slain in raid, requests to maesters for new granary designs. At night she stood on deck, stars cold fires overhead, thinking of Jon's pale face, of Bran's distant eyes, of Arya somewhere west of maps. When Winterfell's towers rose at horizon, tears blurred her view. She disembarked, greeted by Robert Glover, Lady Lyanna Mormont, now taller, fiercer, and dozens of bannermen. They swore to charter, cheered her as Warden Regent. But she noted fear behind pride, memory of dragons, of dead kings, of looming winters. She vowed to quell those ghosts. Roger Karstark, shackled in chains, looked gaunter than ever. In Winterfell's great hall, he kneeled before a high table. Fire roared behind Sansa's seat. She listened to crimes read. She watched his eyes. Green ice ringed by sleepless shadow, shift from defiance to hollow dread. When asked to speak, he spat resentment. Yet when she offered mercy, life in Night's Watch or rope, he faltered. She recalled Jon's words. Mercy sows peace. She pronounced him to the wall, along with 300 rebels. They departed under guard next dawn. As ravens spread news, lesser rebellion stilled, fearful yet hopeful of Crown's temperate justice. Market squares resumed bustle. Harvest wagons rolled. Back in King's Landing, Jon walked ramparts beneath sun. Scar still burned when wind blew off bay, but breath came easier. Tyrion joined him, both cloaks fluttering. I dreaded you'd die like my brother, Tyrion confessed. I dreaded I'd fail like my father, Jon replied. They shared silence. Tyrion tapped goblet he carried, letting red wine swirl. The realm heals. But you and I know history's taste for relapse. How hold peace? Jon's gaze traveled city scaffolds where children chased each other across planks, laughter mingling with hammer clang. By building, he said, stone by stone, and by telling stories of what nearly returned. He touched Scar. Let this speak louder than swords. Tyrion toasted. To stories then. May they outlive kings. Nightfall brought fresh breeze scented with lemon and smoke. Jon returned to his chamber, pen strokes echoing as he begun letters. One to Sansa praising her just mercy. One to Arya, wherever she roamed, speaking of wolves and fields of snowdrops. One to Ghost, though direwolves don't read, yet hearts comprehend how. He paused, staring at flickering candle. War's embers still smoldered across seas. But within this fortress, for one fragile season, Winter's children had carved compromise. He dipped quill anew, writing to Bran now. My king, my brother, proposing a council of realms, meeting yearly to review charter's health. Democracy forged in weirwood ink. Beyond barred windows, stars wheeled, ancient and indifferent. Yet among them glimmered a constellation the North called Ice Dragon. Jon traced it with gaze, remembering prophecy of dark wings bringing dawn. Smile crept. Snow would fall. Leaves would wither. But seeds had been sown. Seeds of unity through difference. Of mercy laced with firm justice. And as long as stories endured, as long as wolves remembered pack, Westeros might yet claim peace long denied. Miles away, on deck of gray dawn, Sansa looked up at same stars. She whispered to Wind, hold him safe. For she knew night still birthed daggers. History still reared monstrous heads. Yet she also knew morning always followed. Ghost howled somewhere north. Echo carried south, across rivers and ridges. Across battlements charred and rebuilt, across hearts still healing. It wove through sky like silver thread, stitching disparate lands into quiet tapestry. Those who heard paused mid-task, sensing something beyond comprehension, promise perhaps, or warning. But to Jon, seated amid parchments, the howl reached like memory of father's voice calling home. He set quill aside, rose, and answered. A low whistle that drifted past walls to mingle with city's hum. A man, a wolf, a kingdom, each acknowledging the other beneath the patient gaze of stars. And thus the night deepened, but darkness bore no terror. It bore repose. In that hush, Westeros slept, not free of scars, but dreaming new songs to guide seasons yet to come. Dawn unfurled across Winterfell's parapets like a pale banner. Indistinct at first, then flushed with timid rose as the sun's crown breached the mist. Hoarfrost clung to every crenel, glittering beneath lamplight that guttered in surrender to morning. In the silence before the cock's cry, Sansa Stark stepped onto the battlements above the eastern gate. Arms wrapped in a thick bearskin cloak dyed so deep a gray that only moonlight could find the silver threads woven through its hems. She leaned upon the stone, breathing the scent of wood smoke drifting from distant chimneys, of pine and peat, and the faint tang of wet iron. Close beneath, the courtyard still slept, punctuated by the occasional snort of a restless horse or the low, rhythmic splash of the well bucket as old Flint drew water before the day's bustle. Months had passed since Roger Karstark's fractured host melted into the winter woods, since Bran's charter had traveled by raven to every lord's solar and tavern hearth. Yet the realm's calm, such as it was, clung to life like a half-frozen flower pressed beneath late spring snow. Fire. Sansa heard that fragility in the hush, a castle trying to relearn the cadence of peace. She pulled her cloak tighter and turned northward, eyes following the king's road until it vanished in folds of fog beyond the last river. Somewhere out there rode the wagons bearing Karstark and his rebels toward Castle Black, escorted by ravens and cold-eyed brothers of the Night's Watch. Somewhere beyond that, the ragged hide of the haunted forest pressed against an endless wall of ice. And somewhere still farther roamed Arya, free as the wind. Footsteps echoed along the parapet stones. Robert Glover approached, helmet tucked beneath elbow, breath minting clouds. He bowed his head fractionally. "My lady, the captains await within the hall. Shall I dismiss them until the noon sitting?" She shook her head, red gold braid swaying. "No. Let them present their tallies. The larders shrink faster each turning of the moon." She sighed. "If the next harvest fails, I will barter the Wintertown's cobbles for grain from the manor. The Reach lords may yet close their granaries," Glover warned. "First reports say they weigh their own price. I've heard talk of seat on the king's council." Sansa's mouth tightened. "If the price of bread is a throne cushion, so be it. We have spared them war. Now we must spare them famine." She studied the dawn-pink horizon. "Has there been more word from King's Landing?" Glover's eyes flicked downward, searching memory. "Ravens came last night. Lord Davos writes that the Ironborn have taken 5 fishing villages on the western coast of Cape Kraken. They fly no sigil but the Kraken, yet they claim the Salt Throne answers only to themselves now." His lip curled. Bran sent the raven on, but he said nothing more. Sansa tamped down a shiver. The Ironborn smell weakness the way wargs scent blood. Jon must not ride west until his wound heals. "Ay," Glover murmured. "But he will. Men like him heal only by testing the skin that mended." She managed a ghost of a smile. "In that he is half dire wolf, half dragon." They paused, sharing silent dread of the news that still flowed like icy meltwater from the south. Lesser lords jostling over ancient grievances, knights brawling over who might claim abandoned castles, whispers of Reach lords who felt spited by Bran's deference to northern autonomy. No single flame threatened conflagration, but together they smoldered. Birthing smoke the wind carried far. Sansa straightened. "Tell the captains I will join them shortly." Glover bowed and left. She remained another heartbeat, letting sunrise settle upon her face like a benediction. A blunted joy fluttered inside. She was home. Her back ached from council benches and quill work, her sleep shortened by nightmares of bolts slicing through Jon's ribs. But Winterfell's walls held her, gave shape to resolve. She passed through the granary yard where steam tumbled from the mouths of cattle, warming their hides against crisp air. The smell of hay and manure stirred memories of childhood, of Bran vaulting across snow to race Rickon toward the archery butts, of Jon leaning on a broomstick sword to grin, half shy, at his siblings' shouts. Those echoes fueled her stride. Within the great hall, fires blazed in twin hearths, bracketing the dais. The long tables buzzed with murmurs of captains reporting to Glover, while stewards spooned porridge into wooden trenchers. The Umber cousin, Alara, stiff in her vigilance, glanced up as Sansa entered, nodding respect. Sansa took her seat beside the hearth. A steward poured tea steeped with mint and honey. Its warmth soothed her throat as captains unfurled scrolls of livestock counts. Chickens decimated by stoats, a mildew destroying stores of barley, a tanner from White Harbor offering leather in exchange for furs. Sansa listened, noting names, promising coin where coin still existed, urging hunters to track elk herds along the lonely hills. She saw fear beneath every tally mark, but also grit. Northerners who had lived through ice, dragons, dead men rising, who would not bend now to hunger. When the final scroll rolled shut, Glover cleared his throat. "My lady, there is another matter." He turned to the door, gestured. A watchman entered, leading a boy perhaps 17 winters, lanky, hair black as raven's wings, clothing ragged but eyes sharp. "This lad was found skulking near the kennels last night. Claims he bears message for Lady Sansa alone." Sansa surveyed the boy. Calloused knuckles, dirt beneath nails, yet a set to his shoulders hinting discipline. "Your name?" "Tristan," he answered, voice thin but steady. "Run with the Night's Watch dispatches, m'lady. I have urgent word from Lord Commander Tormund Giantsbane, sent south by Crow, but Crow's got blown west in last storm. I ran the last leagues on foot." "Tormund?" she echoed, tugging memory. Jean's last missive had mentioned the wildlings' election as Lord Commander of a truly reforged watch. Wildlings and Black Brothers forging newfound kinship to keep the far north's gates secure. "Speak." The boy drew a folded parchment from oilskin, handed it to her with shaking hands. She heaved the wax seal, a crude bear paw, Tormund's chosen mark. She opened it beneath torchlight, eyes flicking across blotched charcoal strokes, the wildling's idea of ink. PGSQL. Sansa Stark. Big changes beyond the wall. Not the icy dead this time. Something worse. Shadow men, like wisps but solid, stepping through cracks in air. They took a hunting party 3 days east of Frostfangs. We found only boots and a spear. No blood. Whispers claim they walk between wood fires unseen. Ravens flee them. Bran's ravens never see this far. Need long eyes and long memories. Old gods stirred when the White Walkers fell, and something else woke up. Sen men. Sen minds that read strange signs. Also, coast with bloody ear arrived 3 nights past. Howled at moon. He guards keeps at night. Says, "I swear. Your brother John still breathes but trouble sours his wound. If healer knows about hot spring moss, send instructions fast. Be quick, little lady of wolves." Tormund Giantsbane. Lord Commander, and bigger than John. Always. She lowered the page, pulse thudding. The mention of shadow men chilled her more than Tormund's rough scrawl. And Ghost, injured yet ranging ahead to warn them. Only underscored danger. She folded the letter. "Summon Maester Walken," she instructed. "Prepare a raven to King's Landing. This news must reach Bran." She hesitated. "And another to Castle Black. I will gather healers' instructions and send supplies." Glover nodded, eyes narrowing with concern. "Shadow men, my lady? We only just buried talk of dead walkers. Perhaps folk tale," she replied, though dread coiled. "Or perhaps the world dislikes unfinished songs." She turned to Tristan. "You will rest, have hot food, new boots. Then I will send you back with parcels. Bear word to Tormund that Winterfell stands ready." Tristan sagged with relief. After dawn councils ended, Sansa retreated to her solar in the broken tower. Rebuilt, yet her private refuge. She spread Tormund's letter beside a half-written account to Bran on trade matters. Her quill hovered. Where to begin? The charter allowed the North autonomy. Yet if a threat loomed beyond the wall, the realm must rally together again. Would southern lords answer if wolves howled north? Or would they whisper that the Starks cried doom to claw more privileges? A knock. Maester Walken entered, white hair bristling. Sansa handed him the letter. He read quickly, frowning. No accounts speak of such beings outside children's tales. But old scrolls from Skagos mention shadows that stole hunters on moonless nights. And some ironborn legends talk of drowned shadows that walk upon water. He tapped parchment. If they leave no blood, perhaps they feed on souls, not flesh. Sansa felt a pulse behind her temples. Is there mention of how to fight them? Walken rifled memory. Salt and iron hinder spirits, some say. Fires of rowan wood. And the old rhymes about obsidian still hold sway. His gaze darted. Mayhap Jones' stores at Winterfell hold dragonglass left from last war. Yes, she said. We stockpiled what remained from Dragonstone's shipments. She stood. Have the smith reforge spearheads, arrowheads, knives. Quietly, no panic, but quick. He bowed. And the moss? She considered. Send ravens to the green healing halls near the neck. Ask for moss that grows in hot springs mist. And I will write to John. He may need it sooner. Men. Far to the south, mid-afternoon sun slanted into the Maker's Keep library through latticed windows, dust motes dancing like gnats in wine. Jon Snow sat in a cushioned chair near the hearth, wool blanket thrown across his lap. He traced fingertip along a page of histories describing the Pact of the Isle of Faces. But eyes unfocused long moments, drifting instead to the chirp of sparrows fluttering beyond arrow slits. His rib-wound pulsed with dull ache, though fever had eased. The maesters insisted he walk the corridors thrice each day, but this midday rest he guarded jealously. A soft rap at door preceded Tyrion's entrance. The hand bore a bundle of scrolls. New headaches, he announced, setting them upon a side table. Though you look improved, less parchment pale. Jon snorted. Fewer dreams of swords splitting my chest at least. That's something, Tyrion quipped, uncorking a small flask and pouring 2 fingers of summer wine into pewter cups. He handed one to Jon. If the maesters complain, tell them wine is fruit. Good for blood. He raised his cup. To surviving treason, assassins, and the constant buzzing of politics. They sipped. Tyrion seated himself opposite. News first. The Ironborn's war horns echo again. Lords Goodbrother and Stonetree proclaim an iron resurgence. They raid soft coasts as far south as Fair Isle. Bran has dispatched ravens to the Arbor seeking joint patrol, but Tarlys prove hesitant. They fear drawing raiders farther south. Jon rubbed temple. Every kingdom's greed winks awake when another grows quiet. He set cup down. My charter with Sansa may kindle hope, but to others it looks like weakness. Tyrion leaned back, fingers steepled. Precisely why we must show strength. Swift, but just. He eyed Jon. Can you ride soon? Jon's brow lifted. Maesters say another fortnight at least, but if Ironborn strike the northwestern coasts, the north must defend without me. Tyrion gestured to scroll pile. You might not have a fortnight. This morning we received word from Old Town. The Hight Hours convene their bannermen. They speak of a coastal alliance to protect trade lanes. Sounds noble. Yet they might leverage it to demand greater liberties, similar to the North. Then, Jon groaned quietly. First the Reach, then the Vale, each corner pulling until the cloth tears. Or until the seamster weaves them together, Tyrion suggested. Bran's council representatives from every region should meet sooner than next year. We must extend invitations now, before alliances calcify. Jon considered. A Moorish in early autumn, is that enough time? If we promise wine and prestige, lords gallop faster than ravens. Tyrion shrugged. Call it the Assembly of Oaths. Let them witness your charter with the North, then craft their own. Better to channel energy into negotiation than rebellion. Nimtir. Jon nodded. Speak with Bran. Tyrion tapped a sealed missive at top of pile. Already did. He consents. The maesters will send ravens tonight. He took another sip. But something else demands your eyes. He produced a second letter bound with bearpaw seal. Came on north wind. Courier collapsed outside Mudgate. Message from Tormund routed by Sansa. He handed it over. Jon unfolded parchment, brow furrowing at Tormund's crude scrawl. Reading, his breath slowed. Something ancient stirred beneath breastbone. Faces flickered. Melisandre telling of shadows birthed from King's seed. The cold and hard home when snow whirled around emptiness that watched them. Bran speaking of cracks in time branches. He swallowed. Shadows walking beyond the wall? He murmured. Tyrion arched brow. We have enough monsters without breeding new ones. Jon's gaze sharpened. This is no jest. Wildlings seldom craft fancy fears. They face what is. And Tormund's men vanished without trace. He leaned forward. And Ghost. If he's injured, something dreadful truly roams. Tyrion's eyes narrowed at mention of the direwolf. Could be remnants of dead spirits, roused by unnatural quiet. Magic seldom retreats politely. Jon folded the letter. I must go north. Tyrion set cup down sharply. Your ribs protest. Men vanish? Jon insisted. If this threat festers, south will follow. He pushed blanket aside and rose slowly, wincing but steady. He paced, feeling wounds tug. I'll take small company, ride light. Travel by sea to White Harbor and overland to Castle Black. Tyrion sighed. Then at least bring a maester versed in arcane lore. Someone who can parse shadows. Sam, Jon said instantly. Tyrion's mouth curved. He will jump at chance to chase nightmares. He paused. But the realm needs you. A faint rumor cannot. Jon faced him. When rumor arises north, winter seldom asks permission to follow. Trust me. Tyrion read certainty in his friend's eyes, then relented. Very well. I'll ready ships. He took Tormund's letter again. One more angle. Mention of moss for your wound. Could be false hope, but Sam may know. Jon's gaze drifted to hearth. Flames limned memories of his father kneeling to sharpen ice, of Maester Aemon cautioning love's conflict with duty. Perhaps soul-eating shadows completed some cruel trinity. Love, duty, fear. He clenched fist. Inform Bran, and send Raven to Sansa. Gather dragonglass, prepare watchers on the wall. Tyrion stood, dusting doublet, expression wry. 5 minutes ago you planned restful fortnight. Now you rally armies against ghosts. Never change, Snow. Jon managed faint smile. I tried once. Didn't suit. The moon waxed and waned thrice before Sea Swift. A sleek galley out of Dragonstone, unfurled black sails bearing the crowned stag and direwolf in quartered union. Jon stood at prow clad in leather jerkin, winter cloak flapping. Ribs wrapped, but less painful. Beside him, Samwell Tarly fought nausea each time, hull-crested swell. The air tasted of brine and promise. Behind them stacked their retinue. 10 veteran Crownsguard in mismatched plate. Maester Orwell's apprentice Adenal, bearer of herbs and mosses. 3 free-folk scouts with wolf for capes, and a silent man named Carl the Lamprey, a reformed Ironborn pilot loaned by Tyrion to chart treacherous Bite waters. At night, he strummed a stringless harp, claiming its ghost strings lulled sea spirits. 2 days north of Maidenpool. They crossed paths with a cluster of fishing sloops blackened by fire. Survivors adrift, telling tales of kraken-sigilled longships raiding by moonlight. Jon offered them barrels of fresh water, and directed them to White Harbor. Grim resolve etched lines deeper across his face. Sam noticed the lingering stiffness whenever Jon shifted weight, but the fire in his eyes burned steady. On the 5th dawn, hulls beat against ice clumps, drifting south like ghostly seals. The Wolf's Den lighthouse rose distant, its beacon guttering weak in gray drizzle. Seabirds cried. At the harbor quays, men waved cloaks, and Lady Lyanna Mormont awaited with a retinue of spearmen. Around her feet, a shaggy white direwolf paced. Go-notched, shoulder wounded, but flesh knitting. The wolf's yellow eyes fixed on Jon even before hawsers flung. Lyanna hailed him with voice officious as a lord twice her age. King's protector, you keep port timing. Ironborn scout ships prowl near Bear Isle. I've smashed 2, but more scurry. She jabbed gauntlet toward horizon. You may borrow my longships after you finish saving the world. Jon smiled wearily. Good to see you still rule the seas, Lady Lyanna. He knelt as Ghost bounded across planks, muzzle thrust into his hand. He ruffled thick fur, whispering thanks. That night they feasted in manderly kept hall, repurposed for war council. Salt pork, acorn bread, smoked eel. Jon studied coast maps, while Sam recounted old town scrolls on Shadowkind, referencing Ashai folk talas of beings born from sorcery's aftermath. Adenel steeped moss in broth, explaining its anti-inflammatory virtue. At dawn they marched. 50 Northmen volunteers joined, plus a score of Manderly archers smelling of seaweed. They crossed the White Knife, then threaded through Wolfswood, each step sinking into leaf-litter damp with early frost. 2 ravens kept ahead bearing word to Castle Black. Far beyond, the wall appeared like dawn's last gasp of winter. White, immense, silent. Castle Black's towers still leaned from centuries of snowmelt, yet new timbers reinforced walkways. Tormund greeted arriving ravens with booming curses at their tardiness. When Joan's first message arrived, he barked orders: rally every spear, every bow. Light pyres on Frostfang peaks. Freefolk warriors gathered, painted with wolf and bear runes. Black brothers cleaned crossbows greased with mammoth tallow. Tormund studied the tree line beyond the wall's shadow. Something shifted there. Faint, flickering. Not ghosts of dead men. These forms looked cut from ink and moonlight. He spat. Jon Snow better hurry, else I'll shag those shadows and send their spawn south. Yet worry flickered in his eyes whenever dusk deepened. On the fourth evening, a patrol returned, dragging a hunter whose eyes stared glassy, body unmarked, save frost around lips. Soul gone, muttered a wildling woman. Another hunter claimed he saw a flicker like starlight swallowed by smoke. Then the victim simply dropped. No prints, no smell. Tormund ordered fires banked high. Logs cracked with pine sap, so flames hissed. Smoke spiraled into sky, carrying sparks toward Aurora painted in bruised green stripes. 3 mornings later, sentries glimpsed riders over shivering flats. Joan's party, banners limp, ghost prowling. Gate winches creaked. Steel rose. Jon dismounted stiffly, clasped Tormund in bear hug that jostled stitches and drew grunts from both. Couldn't wait to see my red hair, Tormund joked, but voice tinged with relief. He eyed Sam, then Adonal. Good. We need brainy folk. Nani. Inside, Jon sat by hearth in King Arthur's chamber, while Tormund recounted every sighting. Sam took notes. Where hunters vanished, the hour, moon phase, wind. He sketched crude map, marking shadow steps as witness described. Adonal comped moss poultices on Jon's rib, scolding him for riding too soon. Night fell. They dined on elk stew. Freefolk musician drummed bones. Yet tension crackled. Jon retired early but lay awake, roiling thunder of memory. Hardhome's silence, the Night King's glare. He rose, stoked brazier, studied obsidian dagger he carried since the long night's end. Cloud slid past half-moon outside window. A soft knock. Sam entered, clutching a parchment torn from dusty volume. Found passage, he whispered. Old tongue from Yt. When the light that killed death wanes, those unshaped by bone will hunger for song. Perhaps prophecy of these shadows. Jon sighed. Light that killed death? Dragonglass? Or Idolor's fire? Sam folded arms. Could refer to dragon flame that felled white walkers. When that fire cooled, void seeks fill. Jon scraped dagger's edge along calloused thumb. We will fill void with steel and obsidian if need be. Next dawn they ventured beyond wall. 20 riders, ghost leading guide. Frostfang peaks rose jagged. Snow whirled lazily, though season early for such flurries. Sam rode huffing. Tormund's warband padded behind on snowshoes. They reached forest clearing described in earlier tale. Pines leaned outward as if repelled from center where grass remained untrodden. No birdsong. A faint smear, like a shadow stained upon air, shimmered near an ancient stone marker carved with runes so worn they resembled tears. Jon approached slowly, heart pounding. Shadow flickered like oil slick twisting yet holding shape, vaguely man-shaped, edges rippling. Ghosts snarled, hackles bristling. Jon raised obsidian dagger. His men readied torches. He whispered old tongue taught by Melisandre. Prayer to R'hllor and old gods both. The shadow recoiled at flame's flare but did not vanish. Instead it drifted sideways, hesitating at Rowan branch. Sam thrust forward. Where branch neared, the figure thinned, retreating. A high-pitched keening pierced air, vibrating chest bones. Jon's breath steamed. He lunged, slashing upward. Obsidian blade met no resistance yet. Shadow tore like smoke rent by wind. A chill rushed past, extinguishing 2 torches. Men cried out. The figure recoalesced yards away, but smaller, dimmer. Sam incanted words from parchment. By salt and iron, earth and bone, be bound. He hurled a leather pouch of coarse salt. Crystals scattered. Where they crossed, shadows outline, shape frayed, shedding black scraps that dissolved into air. Another keen, then silence. The forest exhaled. Birds resumed chirp. Torment laughed hoarsely. Piss-out spirits can't stand seasoning. But humor faded when they found at clearing's edge a withered human figure, one of missing hunters, skin shriveled, eyes sunken. No blood, no warmth, as though life drained through unseen leech. They built cairn of stones. Jon knelt, whispered farewell. He felt weight of each life stolen, each unknown danger yet. But victory glimmered. Salt and rowan and obsidian hinder shadows. They returned to Castle Black, crafting plan. Gather salt from seaside cliffs, fell rowan branches, forge arrows tipped with dragonglass dust bound in beeswax. Ravens flew to Winterfell with formula. To King's Landing the coded message. Enemy shadow undone by trinity of salt rowan obsidian. Back south, Sansa received Raven at midnight. Read beneath candlelight. Relief warred with dread. She dispatched riders to gather salt stores. She tasked blacksmith Harold Slate to grind dragonglass into powder. She reread Jon's final line. Send hope with dawn. She pressed letter to chest. In King's Landing, Tyrion read Jon's coded scroll, then strode to Bran, ignoring chambermaid's protests. Bran's eyes already distant. I saw, he said. Salt, rowan, obsidian. Old gods' nails to close cracks. Tyrion exhaled. Then we must supply. Reach salt pans. Stormlands, rowan groves. Dragonstow's remaining glass. We can barter. Offer seats at assembly for shipments. Bran inclined head. See to it. And send white ravens to every citadel. Mark this threat. He whispered something else. Voice too low. Tyrion leaned closer. Forgiveness, Bran said. Arrives as quietly as dawn. Tyrion frowned, puzzled. In the weeks that followed, wagons creaked across realm. Sacks of salt from Shield Islands, bundled rowan branches taller than men hauled from Tarth. Crates of obsidian shards chipped from Dragonmont. At Maidenpool Dock, Tyrell envoy negotiated open trade lanes in exchange for grain tariffs eased. The realm, once fraying, was rewoven by necessity. Every lord who supplied the north earned place at upcoming assembly, chanced to steer Westeros' new course. Jon's wound toughened into scar. He sparred lightly with Tormund atop wall, laughter scattering ravens. Sam built an archive of shadow encounters, instructing brothers on binding rituals. Freefolk children learned to ring clear bells when hunting, to disrupt shadow's cohesion. Night fires ringed every shelter. One evening, under Aurora, a great cluster of shadows surged, dozens swirling down slope like storm cloud given legs. Jon stood upon ice ridge, obsidian-edged spear in hand, Sam chanting at his back. Tormund's warband brandishing blazing rowan torches. They fought. Salt bombs burst like white blossoms. Rowan whips lashed darkness. Obsidian spears tore moaning fissures in night. At dawn, only ash-like residue remained, curling into cracks and sealing them shut. Jon gazed east where pale light bled across horizon. For first time since Assassin's Blade, he inhaled without pain. The dead were gone, the living stood, and new monsters faltered before union of simple elements. He envisioned the forthcoming assembly. Lords from Dorne to Bear Isle gathering at River Run's green banks, debating boundaries, forging pacts. No single throne would chain them. Rather common oaths hammered by shared scars. Jon would stand beside Sansa and Bran and Tyrion, speak of salt and rowan and glass, of love that killed fear, of duty that embraced mercy. One night he wrote by lamplight a letter to Arya, though he knew not where she roamed. Perhaps sailing Sunset Sea. He told her of shadow wars and brave children ringing bells, of wolves guarding men and men guarding wolves, of dawn that tasted like frost-kissed mint, of hope. He signed, "Brother, friend, always of the pack. Return when wind carries you." He sealed with direwolf wax and set it among ravens, hoping wings would find her. In Winterfell, first snowflakes of full winter drifted early, settling on ramparts. Sansa watched them swirl in torchlight. She felt weight of crownless leadership, yet inside her a quiet flame endured. For each shadow that stalked the far woods, a torch now burned here, thanks to hands united from south and north. She thought of Mother's words long ago. The only chains that hold a Stark are ones they clasp willingly. She smiled faintly. She had clasped duty and love both, forging chain between kingdoms. Below, children chased one another with wooden swords, squealing. Their laughter rose, mingling with howl of ghost, far away guarding his new pack. Sansa's cloak billowed. She whispered to snow-laden sky, "Let winter come, we stand ready," and the flakes, as if answering, danced around her like silver feathers of some vast wing, settling upon stone that would outlast storms and kings alike. Weeks later, the Assembly of Oaths convened at River Run. Banners of every house snapped in brisk wind: Sunburst of House Martell, Green Kraken of Harlaw, Golden Rose of Tyrell, Silver Falcon of Arryn, Flayed Man of a Penitent Karstark, Direwolf and Broken Wheel entwined on Bran's standard. On broad dais above the river, Bran sat in curved chair, eyes reflecting water. Jon stood to his right, scar a pale slash under collar. Sansa, resplendent in white wolf fur mantle, stood left. Tyrion paced with parchment. Gendry wore Baratheon stag upon leather breastplate, and Sam, scrolls under arm, hovered at lectern. Lords murmured anticipation. Jon stepped forward. Silence rolled out like tide receding. When the dead rose, he began, voice carrying, "We won only by standing shoulder to shoulder. When Shadow Men returned, salt from the Reach, Rowan from the Stormlands, obsidian from Dragonstone bound them. Now we face storms of hunger, greed, fear. Let us bind these shadows also with oaths." He gestured. Sam unrolled great charter, pages stitched from deerhide, ink shimmering dark green. Jon spoke of rights. Each realm, self-governed yet pledging aid. He spoke of council seats allotted by grain tithe, by fleet strength, by scholarly bounty. He spoke of trial by council rather than war for disputes. He spoke of wolves and krakens and roses growing in same soil. Some lords grumbled of lost sovereignty. Others cheered promise of voice. Brienne of Tarth, donned in Kingsguard white, stood sentinel behind Bran, her presence quiet shield. Maester Ibros read preamble of histories, reminding assembly of ruin each time realm tore itself. Days of debate followed. Jon listened, mediated, invoked Sansa's calm counsel. Together they inserted clauses protecting small folk, prohibiting forced levies without council approval, ensuring grain flows across neck in winter. Ironborn envoys demanded free raiding rights. They were countered by maritime laws allowing salvage but not slaughter, else fleets from Arbor and Manderley would blockade. A compromise charter of seas emerged. Ironborn could raid uninhabited SOC coasts but treat Westerosi Isles as fellow kin, punished by joint navies if violated. At night, starlit tents hummed with negotiation. Jon slipped away often to riverbank where reeds whispered. One midnight, he met Gendry hammering spearheads by portable forge. Sweat flying amber under sparks. They spoke of Arya. Gendry's voice softened. Jon promised to deliver letter if ravens found her. Another dawn. Davos arrived bearing crates of sea salt, symbolic gift of peace of ports. Lannister envoy donated silver for roads bridging Stormlands and Crownlands. Quietly, realm stitched. On final day, Bran rolled forward. The charter stands. Those who sign pledge hearts and arms, not to crown nor castle, but to one another. He produced obsidian ink quill. Sansa signed first, bold hand. Then Jon, then Tyrion, then lords large and small queued. Some hesitated, others strode proud. But one by one parchment filled. Trumpets sounded. Children released white ravens into sky, wings beating. Bells of River Run tolled. Crowd erupted in cheers, tears, even reluctant nods from Ironborn. Jon felt weight slip from shoulders. A new weight replaced it. Responsibility to nurture fragile birth. During feast, bread and salt served across hall. Jon cornered Sam, thanked him for scholarship. Sam blushed, muttered about needing larger archives. Sansa approached, goblet in hand. "Father would smile," she said. Jon sipped cider. "I hope he forgives how long we wandered to find this moment." She touched his stitched scar lightly. "Wounds teach if we survive them." He nodded. They watched river glint under moon. Yet distant watchers plotted. On far coast of Essos, a ship bearing black sail anchored at ports where shadows roamed gullies. Men in red robes debated whispers of a new flame reborn. Unsatisfied that prophecy ended with snow and ash, they spoke of shadowmen reports and glimpsed opportunity. In the dark hold, a woman with eyes like molten gold smiled, recalling name, Daenerys in tone half reverent, half hungrily envious. She studied star charts marking region called Valeria's Wrath. To her, Westeros was not realm of charters, but cradle for dragons yet unhatched. Her monks lit braziers of black oil, chanting. But this threat lay far, for now Westeros breathed. Winter deepened. Snow-blanketed fields near Winterfell. Children carved wolf heads in drifts. Old women baked oat cakes with cranberries. Sansa oversaw grain caravans south to riverlands where colonels fed refugees, rebuilding charred hamlets. She corresponded weekly with Bran, monthly with Sam, daily with Jon when ravens permitted. Jon remained at Castle Black through winter, training watchmen in use of salt roe and obsidian. He visited freefolk camps, forging peace councils. Each clan agreed to supply wild parsley and pine resin to southern healers in exchange for iron tools. Ghost led ranger patrols, ears sharp for echo of shadow, but Forest murmured only ordinary peril. Wind, snow, cunning wolverines. Torment joked boredom might kill him more than shadows. On first day of New Year, a raven arrived from beyond seas. Short note penned in spidery script. Jon recognized Arya's scrawl. Saw sails with krakens near Sunset Islands. Following, "Will send word." Still breathing. Jon laughed aloud, relief echoing. He penned reply. Sealed, loosed raven to horizon, then stepped outside onto curtain wall. Dawn sky flamed magenta, casting wall's crest in rose gold. He breathed crisp air free of death scent, filled with possibility. In distant courtyard, recruits practiced bows with rowan-tipped arrows, quivers brimming with obsidian barbs. Somewhere down below, Sam lectured about binding spells, while a giant of a free-folk toddler chased ravens. Jon felt rib scar itch, but pain faint now. A reminder, not shackle. He thought of future. Maybe returning to Winterfell come spring, maybe exploring Satyr's steps for dragonglass caches, maybe simply living. He heard footstep and turned. Sansa stood wrapped in ice-blue cloak, cheeks ruddy from travel. She had sailed from White Harbor as New Year dawned, bringing harvest accounts. "You've returned," he breathed, surprised. "Only for a week," she said. But I could no longer bear to discuss larder figures by raven alone. He grinned. "Castle Black serves watery stew for welcome." She smiled. "I brought lemon cakes to improve your hospitality." They leaned on parapet, watching sunrise, side by side, as they had once stood amid ruins of long night. Snowflakes drifted but sun glowed strong behind. They spoke little, yet silence brimmed with content. Pack at peace, realm healing, threats faced together. Below, horns sounded friendly blast, rangers returning. The future remained unwritten, but ink of new charter still dried, each breath a promise. And in that soft dawn, with snow-licking old stones, with dire wolf at their heels and wide world stretching nuance and novelty, Jon and Sansa understood. Winter would always come, and they, together with realm they forged, would meet it, armed not solely with blades, but with bonds made of salt, rowan, and obsidian, made of trust, strong as Valyrian steel, abiding as the wall itself, enduring even in face of shadows. Ishnaidim Dayin. Ash swirled on the windless air above the shivering sea, where a tongue of black rock jutted like a broken spearhead from the waves. To sailors, charting the northern passage, this place was merely the Shadow Needle, a useless spur between Skagos and the ever-frozen mists. But deep within its sharpened tip, a pulse of subterranean heat beat like a heart long forgotten by maps and men. Caves burrowed downward, veining the rock with passages blistering hot, even in dead winter. It was here the priestess came to answer whatever dream had tugged her from the red deserts far across the world. Her true name had been offered to flame, and thus was gone. But the black-robed acolytes called her Zarai, the listener. She wrapped her slim form in a cloak of night blue silk that flickered scarlet where torches flared, and she walked barefooted through corridors whose floors glowed faintly vermilion, woken by smoldering veins of obsidian. At the end of the passage, she stepped into a cavern wide as a castle yard. Magma seeped through fissures in the walls, sizzling into black glass the moment it touched air. The smell was sulfur and honeyed smoke, blood to her lungs. She closed her eyes. "I have answered," she whispered in the tongue of Ashai. No voice replied, and yet she heard a thrumming. It vibrated through stone and marrow both, neither fully sound nor fully silence. She felt the song before she understood it, an ancient, hungry cadence. Something stirred beneath the skin of the world, something the listener had journeyed to wake. She knelt, pulled a carved onyx dagger from her sash. With practiced grace, she opened her forearm and fed the cavern's cracked floor 3 drops of living red. They hissed against molten stone. Steam spiraled upward, twisting into a silhouette half-formed, half-remembered. A woman's shape, tall, arms outstretched, as though birthed from vapor. Her face shimmered in the glow, neither beautiful nor hideous but beckoning. Zarai bowed. "Shadow of she who was," she greeted. "Speak. Your sister waits." The figure quivered like candlelight licked by gust. Zarai steadied, every nerve aflame. This was the moment she had sought. Rumors of dragons dying yet kings remaining, of thrones melted, of a boy king ruling from a wheeled chair, while priests of Aralor argued that prophecy lay empty. She had come chasing a whisper that the world's fire had fallen dormant, but another fire waited buried in ice and night. The figure began to move, drifting toward her, lips forming syllables that scraped like glass on bone. North, beyond, dawn. Then a rush of wind, as if giant lungs inhaled from the cavern mouth. Torches snuffed. Darkness pounded shut. Zarai dropped to both palms, feeling brittle shards of cooled magma beneath her skin. She heard the echo of a ripple, a splash somewhere deep below, far inside the rock, and she knew she had not failed. The message was simple, but its echo would reverberate through kingdoms soon enough. North, beyond dawn. She could interpret that half-cryptic phrase only one way. The dawn the living had newly won could yet be eclipsed. But the key to fire's return also waited there. North, beyond the dawn they believed secure. She pressed her bleeding forearm to her lips, smearing blood across mouth and cheek. "It will be done," she vowed. Then she rose and left the cave to summon her escorts. Warlocks, razor-slim assassins, and the bent double, white-haired scribe who carried a folio of dragon lore beneath his cloak. The Red Temple in Volantis had financed her voyage, but they would not own what came next. She would bring them something greater than prophecy. A living spark to reignite the years of blood and flame. Ice cracked beneath hooves while the column threaded east along the wall's lee side. Jon Snow rode at point with ghost padding silent as Moonshadow beside. Sansa rode 2 rows back in a sable-lined hood, pale strands of her red-gold braid fluttering in crosswind. They had left Castle Black only this morning, intent on inspecting new watchtowers Tormund's folk were raising along river gorges where shadows once prowled. 6 dozen mixed troops followed, 50 black brothers with salt-laced pikes, 15 wildlings wielding rowan-wood axes, a clutch of archers whose quivers jangled with dragon-glass fletchings. But it wasn't the tower sights that weighed on Jon's mind. Avon had arrived at dawn from Bran, iron-born fleets mass at the gullet. Reach lords threaten embargo unless charter grants them first rights to arbor wine caravans. Stormlands join. Keep faith. But return soon. Or council fractures. Jon pictured Tyrion juggling lords like flaming torches with a half-hearted grin. He pictured Bran watching from within quiet eyes as threads tangled. Jon's ribs still stung when he inhaled deeply. Yet duty marched him onward. The north could not be left leaderless while shadows still lurked. They crested a shale rise, revealing First Tower. A squat wooden platform, perched atop 3 thick tree trunks, spliced with ash beams. Smoke curled from its brazier like a lazy dragon. 2 watchmen hailed them, lowering rope ladder. Jon dismounted, wincing. Tormund bounded ahead to inspect the salt barrels stored in a lean-to. Sansa strode to the edge where rock fell away in a sheer drop into pine-cluttered ravine. Snow gusted upward, white motes swirling about her face. She watched wind carve lines across distant drifts. Too still, she murmured at Jon's quiet approach. Every time wind falters, I hear those things whisper. Jon followed her gaze. You see no shadows now. Only because we stare them down, she said, and shook head. I sometimes wonder if that is all we will ever do. We patch holes faster each year, but new cracks keep spidering. He considered. Mortar holds so long as the masons keep working. If we stop, stones slide again. He touched her shoulder lightly. The comfort lingered until a watchman hailed from tower top. Riders to the west. Jon climbed ladder. Sansa followed. From high perch he scanned horizon. A thin smudge of riders indeed approached along forest edge, cloaks whipping. They bore no clear banners, but one standard flickered pale gray. Through spyglass Jon saw a man in black plate at their head, and recognition slammed through him. Benjen, he breathed. Moments later the riders thundered beneath tower. Jon and Sansa descended. First into view came Benjen Stark, face older, weather-seamed, but eyes bright. He swung down from saddle and seized Jon in rough embrace. Ghost sniffed his boots suspiciously, but relaxed after a whine of greeting. Benjen turned to Sansa, bowing. Lady of Winterfell, you look much the queen in the north, if queens still existed. Uncle, she gasped, shock melting into joy. We feared you lost beyond the wall again. He smiled faintly, but urgency rimmed his voice. News rides quicker than ravens. A red priestess landed on Skagos weeks past with sellswords and strange black ships. I tracked her to the Shadow Needle, then south along the Broken Pass. She evades, but her spies bribe free folk with silver to guide them past our towers. Jon exchanged glance with Sansa. We intercepted no word of priests this far north. She moves through cracks, Benjen said. She seeks something, talks about a rebirth of dragons among the snows. Tormund strode up, red beard bristling. Dragons dead, priest fools chasing smoke. Benjen shook head. I slipped into their camp, heard talk of the ice-kindled egg. They say the blood of the last dragon queen seeded embers even in cold ashes. He eyed Jon. You buried Daenerys Targaryen at Dragonstone. Jon felt the old guilt jolt. Carried her there with what honor I could. Drogon vanished east. Man here. Bones or scale? Benjen asked. Only sand and melted stone, Jon said. Then priestess hunts myth. Or something else. Benjen drew parchment. Upon it a map sketched roughly. Coastline of Skagos, arrow north of Last Hearth, X marking Frostwater Lake. They keep repeating Frostwater. Some old legend of egg beneath the lake's frozen heart, sealed in time. Sansa's breath clouded. If the Ironborn sniff rumor of dragon eggs, they'll sail north as well. Tormund spat. Let 'em freeze. Jon studied paper. Frostwater Lake sat days ride east, deep in Skagosian foothills. He turned to Uncle. You saw how many with her? 200 warriors in mismatched armor. SOC sellswords with scarlet eye tattoos, and warlocks of Quarth in blue-black robes. Jon scowled. Shadow mages and red priests together. Dangerous, he muttered. Sam will want to interrogate them. Sansa frowned. We cannot split our forces thin, yet if they dig at Frostwater, We must stop them before Ironborn or Shadows join. Jon gazed north, throat tight. Two choices: return south to political tempest, or venture deeper into frost to quell new threat. He rubbed scarred ribs, mindful. At last he spoke. "Uncle, take half our brothers, circle east to Frostwater. Watch, do not engage. Sansa, lead remainders south tomorrow. Inform Bran, muster valley banners. I ride with Benjen until we unearth truth." Sansa's eyes flashed protest. "Your wound scarcely aches now," he lied. She inhaled. "Then I ride with you." "No," he said softly. "Council needs your voice. Tyrion wrangles lords, but only you bridge trust between north and south." She met his gaze long. Snowflakes pattered between them. "I will rally grain lines, hold lords' tempers, but send swift ravens of each step you take. And I you," he promised. Tormund slapped his chest. "I go where fight looks fun. These priests you mention, I've never murdered a warlock before." Benjen's grin flashed. "You may get chance." Sansa exhaled, then clasped Jon's forearm. "Find truth, but come back whole." He squeezed her fingers, feeling warmth through gloves. They parted. That night they quartered in the new tower. Sansa pored over route charts with Maester Edenel by flicker of whale oil lamp. She drafted Raven to Bran. Red priestess named Jarai heads toward Frostwater Lake seeking ice-kindled egg. Jon pursues with Benjen and 30. I ride south at dawn to recall Karstark, Serwyn, Manderly levies. Pray, hold, council united. She's sealed with Silver Wolf. In bunk below watchpost beams, Jon tried for sleep. Ghost lay across doorway, eyes golden and dark. Wind whistled through slats. Jon's thoughts drifted, dragon eggs beneath frozen lake. Rhaegar's words about dream of spring, Daenerys' final breath. Could any spark remain? And what if fire rose in wrong hands? At first, gray hint of dawn, he mounted. Benjen led. Tormund swaggered behind with 15 freefolk. Snow thickened quickly, flurries building to near whiteout. They skirted cliffs echoing with avalanches, then plunged into Skagos foothills. Land of legends about unicorns and cannibal clans. Jon glimpsed eerie rock pillars shaped like talons. At midday they found the priestess's last camp. Ring of stones still warm, prints leading deeper northeast. Warlock symbols, icy blue runes, scrawled upon tree bark. Jon instructed 2 black brothers to cover runes in salt slurry. That evening, they reached ridge above Frostwater Lake. Sunset painted clouds blood red, reflecting atop frozen expanse below. In center of lake sat island, an upthrust dome of crystal clear ice the size of Winterfell's godswood. And on its glassy slope, flickered torch specks. Priests already there. Benjen crouched. They arrived sooner than we feared. Jon's breath steamed. We move under darkness. No frontal attack. Break the ice from beneath. Tormund grinned. Crack their cup, drown their wine. They split into pairs flanking lakeshore. Sound carried strangely in the hush. Even whisper felt thunderous. Spirits soared overhead, night gulls or something darker. Jon crawled across crunchy sheet toward island, ghosting ahead. Warlocks in blue-black chanted around pit, melted into crystal, funneling heat via braziers that burned green flame. At pit's lip, the priestess Jarai stood, hair unbound, blades of glass arranged in star shape around her. Jon signaled. Archers knocked rowan shafts. Before they loosed, a low rumble shivered beneath. Ice moaned. Jon smelled sulfur. The priestess lifted both arms. Her voice rang across lake. Awake, heart of Winterfire. Light burst from pit, white shot with crimson. Wind whooshed outward, pelting Jon with powdered snow. The ice underfoot spider-webbed cracks. Warlocks pressed staves into fissures. Their robes whipped madly. Something inside pit glowed, a pulsing ember deep within ice. Jon leapt forward. No. Arrows hissed, dozens piercing chants. Warlocks screamed, some toppling into pit. Free folk raiders rushed across intersection of cracks, axes hewing braziers aside. Green flames shattered across ice. Ghost lunged at a warlock, silken robe ripped, revealing gaunt torso scrawled with glyphs. Priestess pivoted gracefully, her hands conjuring ribbon of dark flame that hissed and sparked. She hurled it, it splashed short, dissolving shards. Benjen closed. Longsword black, with dragonglass shards hammered along fuller. He slashed. Her cloak fluttered away like smoke. She snarled, claws of black fire sprouting along fingers. Jon reached pit edge. Down within, embedded in swirling ice, rested a dark oval stone the size of a bear's skull. Glossy with crimson veins. He felt heat radiate. It looked neither like dragon egg nor normal rock, but a fused union of obsidian and something alive. Each beat of glow matched his own pulse. Jarai shrieked in ruinous tongue. A sphere of shadow burst from her, pitching warriors back. Jon braced behind Ray's shield. Shockwave numbed arms. Priestess stepped atop pit, as if on air. "You cannot halt dawn unbroken," she hissed. Jon thrust obsidian spear upward. She parried with flame claw, which shattered at contact, splintering into black sparks. She staggered, surprise echoing. Jon pressed. Tormund barreled from flank, hammering her knees. She vaulted aside, landing on slanted crystal. Warlock survivors rallied around her, weaving threads of blue darklight that licked across ice. Cracks deepened. Water lurked a handspan below. Jon signaled withdrawal, but Priestess again raised arm, chanting. The egg pulsed brighter, its glow spreading spider veins of red through ice. Benjen shouted, "She means to melt it loose." Jon's eyes caught glint of salt sacks strapped to Wildling's belt. He ripped two, flinging coarse powder across ice, then driving spear tip at Fisher. Salt sizzled on glow, white sparks erupting. The egg's pulse faltered. Priestess screamed fury. Warlocks lashed at Jon, one staff lasered cold at his face. He ducked. Ghost tore the man's throat. Another slash from Benjen decapitated second. Tormund broke third spine with Rowan club. Jarai, desperate, plunged bare hand into fracture to seize egg. The moment her fingers touched shell, crimson veins streaked her arm. Lightning of red ice zipped up to shoulder. She shrieked, but would not yield. Jon roared, heaving spear butt into widening crack. Ice sheet under Priestess groaned. Sagged. Freefolk heaved axes at edge, widening fissure. With ear-splitting crack, entire island slab wrenched downward. Priestess and egg dropped into frigid water. Steam geysered. The slab's collapse rippled out. Jon backpedaled. Freefolk leaping. A wildling fell screaming through ice. Benjen caught his wrist, but lost him to currents. Water swallowed Priestess's scream. Glow died beneath black surface. Warlock scrambled away. Two fled across ice, but archers felled them. Then quiet descended. Only hiss of steam from hole and screech of gull. Jon's lungs burned. He scanned. Ghost limped but stood. Benjen knelt by dead comrade. Tormund's beard streamed icicles. Jon approached pit. Dark water churned. No glow remained. He kneeled. For a heartbeat, he imagined fingers reaching up, but water stilled. After a long moment, he crossed charcoal-smeared salt over his chest, a gesture both Melisandre and his old gods might respect. They retreated to shore as ice groaned behind. Ceiling wound with new skin of translucent frost. 3 days later, back at Castle Black, Sam stood before the broken Rowan club and scrap of obsidian eggshell they salvaged, merest sliver fused to Priestess's glove. He concluded, not a dragon egg. More akin to a volcanic geode seeded by dragonfire. Perhaps Drogon's flame melted rock into glass, trapping droplets of Valyrian blood, giving birth to, I know not. He spread hands. Whatever spark of sorcery inside died when salt quenched it. Jon nodded. Then let rock remain drowned. Tormund grunted. I preferred fighting restful dead to cracked women breathing fire. Benjen smiled wearily. Wars never end. They just change. Jon turned to Raven scroll from Bran. Council fracturing, meet at Harrenhal midsummer. Sansa's note beneath. Reach embargo, timed with ironborn raids. I hold them balanced, but need your presence. Jon sighed. We ride south once men heal. He closed fists. But we will not carry this relic. He motioned to Sam. Sam dumped shard into cauldron of salt brine. Hiss rose then ceased. May its echoes fade, he muttered. Above, noon sun glinted across wall, turning ice blue white. Jon walked ramparts, ghost at heel. Wind cut sharp but lively. He gazed south where politics simmered, where roads led to Harrenhal, a castle of burnt stone and haunting rumor. He thought of Jarai's final cry, "You cannot halt dawn unbroken." Perhaps true, but they could keep forging it brighter, piece by piece. He fingered pouch of rowan seeds gifted by wildling child. He would bring them south, plant in charred courtyards of Harrenhal, in fountains of King's Landing, in fields of Dorne, rowan to stand sentinel against shadows. He glanced at horizon, exhaled, whispered to Sansa's far-off presence, "I'm on my way," and he descended tower steps to pack saddlebags once more. Heart steady with purpose, scar silent promise stitched across ribs, winter song humming quietly within as Realm's story turned another page, toward uncertain spring.